Test, test, test. Testosterone. Can you hear me? I sure hope so. I hope there's someone out there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we are like the stream has started. That's good.
Okay. So do I
All right,
just
I can hear myself. That's good. That's good enough. Welcome everybody. Cheers and all the other things. I was going to do like a really like big sort of like disguising myself as a pirate and talking about the Caribbean and then talking like actually asking experts for like Caribbean things, and I did not do that because I am really bad at like planning stuff ahead. And then I got like into an argument with my flatmate, and we had to listen to like 70s disco music for like the last 40 minutes. And the point is, welcome everybody. And I have like an amazing guest, and my amazing guest is Lily from Lily's Little Library. Lily, how are you tonight?
Hi, I'm doing well.
I love how you like way more relaxed than I am already. It's such a German efficiency thing where I'm like keyed up and anyway.
Thing is, I'm not relaxed at all. I'm just very good at pretending that I am, but I'm not.
That is totally fine. Anyway, my guest tonight, Lily from Lily's Little Library from Trinidad, and I'm so happy to have her here, and it's going to be really interesting. Uh, I don't even remember. Someone asked me earlier today, like, where I discovered your channel. And I'm like, I don't know. I think I've just like been watching your stuff since you started,
hmm
and I don't know why. Like I don't know how it showed up. Is what I'm saying.
hmm
And I'm like, this is very different from what I do. It's incredibly cool to have someone. I try to watch people that are different from me because otherwise I'm, always stuck in my own rut.
hmm
And that's kind of how I ended up like watching your stuff, and it's amazing. It's really cool, and it's what I love about it. And beyond that, Lily,
hmm
what should people actually know about you? What would you tell people about yourself before we, get into like an actual conversation? Also, I guess I have to do this. Anyway, cheers and all of that.
Well, hi, my name is Lily. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. I've spent my entire existence on this island. I love books, and I used to read a lot when I was younger, but I kind of fell off of it. Like at the end of high school, I went into a slump, and it wasn't just a reading slump, it was like a life slump in general. And I found books again back in like the end of 2022, and since then, I've been an avid reader again. So, yeah, that's basically what my channel is about, just books, random things. I just talk about things that I like.
All right, I see Jin is there. Hello, Jin, and hello, Ori, and hello. The Demi Drek has entered the chat. You don't know that, I think, Lily, because Demidrek is like a Malazan term, and the Malazan Book of the Fallen is one of those like big fantasy books that like some people are like scared of, and some people read, and some people pretend they have read, and so forth. And Demidrek is just like one of the titles of like priests in that specific, you know, universe. But yeah, his
Yeah.
name is not Demidrek; it's a title.
Okay. It made me think of Stranger Things at first when I saw it. It's like, that's an interesting name. But then when you explained it, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Well, that's like the thing that I wanted to start talking about with you today is you said you read like a lot as a child, and then like what kind of got you back into reading, and what got you back to like actually starting like a YouTube channel? Is like what kind of motivated you to actually do that?
Funnily enough, it was a book that I didn't like that got me back into reading. Um,
Yeah.
my boss at the time noticed that I used to talk about books a lot, and he's the type of person, if he realizes you have an interest, he will invest in it. So he got me The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand.
Mm.
and I tried reading it twice, and I stopped at the same spot every single time.
Which book was that?
The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand.
Oh, gods.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And every time I got to a specific point, I would just give up on the book. But I realized that I missed reading and that I hadn't read in a very, very long time. And it surprised me how much time had passed since I last picked up a book. So after that, I think I read The Outsider by Stephen King, and that is what kind of got me like fully into reading again. And in terms of my channel, it was something I always thought of since I was young, but I never had the courage to do it. But then I don't know, I turned 25 and I was like, I'm gonna die, so let's just do whatever we want.
See, so Ayn Rand is actually good for something after all, because you get you back into reading. No, God.
Yeah. I guess it worked.
This is I always quote this. There's like that's a book, and it's a political book, but it's called The Reactionary Mind, which is about like reactionary theory and everything, and it goes from like all the way back from Edmund Burke to today. And it has this chapter on Ayn Rand, which is interesting, and it starts with like St. Petersburg in Revolution gave us Isaiah Berlin, Vladimir Nabokov, and Ayn Rand. One was a philosopher, one was a writer, and one thought she was both and was neither. And I'm like, all right.
Interesting read.
Well, as someone who's read both Nabokov and Berlin, he's not wrong, but it's still like absolutely like in 2 sentences you actually like what can you say? It's brutal. Anyway, but yeah, and I think what I was interested in is like how did you decide to start like a booktube channel? Because it's like reading books is one thing, but like going like I'm going to talk about stuff online. It's like the next step is like, what kind of motivated you to do that, and how did you get there, and was it hard?
I'm not 100% sure exactly what it was. I think around that time, a lot of new creatives were popping up on YouTube, especially in the book community, but in general, there were a lot of new channels coming up around that time. And I don't know, I said, you know what, let me do this at least some point in my life. I fell in love with YouTube from the get-go. Like when it first became an app, I loved it, and it was something that I found interest in, but I just didn't have the courage to do it because I was always like fearful of perception of people. But then, like I said, I turned 25 and life didn't seem that serious anymore, that I had to pull myself back from doing certain things because of what some random person might think. And it was a little hard because even now, this is my first time streaming. I do get nervous every single time I pick up the camera, and I've been doing this for a year now, and I still have to like hype myself up or prep myself or talk to myself and be like, stop being so nervous about it, you're gonna be fine. So yeah, there are moments when it's hard. I think the hardest part was like talking to camera and not feeling strange, because yes, there's an audience on the other side, but realistically it's just you, and I do talk to myself, but I've never recorded myself talking to myself. So it was an interesting process, but I love it. So here we are.
It's interesting. I know some people that go like, as a tip, like I know, put like a stuffed animal behind your plushie or whatever behind your camera, so you talk to something, and to sort of like help you focus and stuff like that. And I know those. It's kind of weird to talking to like the nothing, and then realize that the nothing is after all like potentially like hundreds, thousands, or whatever amount of people that could potentially see that afterwards. It's a weird place.
It is a weird place. Something that helped was sometimes I'll picture my best friend, like I'm on FaceTime with her, we're having a conversation. And sometimes, like if I get really nervous, I will literally call her and I'll be like, listen, I'm gonna talk to you. Like you're here right now while I record this video. So yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting point. It's like, did did you tell your family and friends about you starting YouTube? Because like a lot of people I know, me included, it's super weird to tell your people that you know from like the physical world about. Oh, I'm doing the YouTube thing now. It feels super weird, right?
It
So
does. I
yeah,
tell anyone. I didn't tell a single person, and the first
yeah,
person I did tell when I did was my brother, and that's because we're very close. So
mhm,
eventually, I talked to him about my goals. So eventually, he would have found out, but it was very much like months
yeah,
into it. I was like, hey, by the way, I started this thing, and I never actually told the rest of my family. They just kind of stumbled on my
mm,
video one time, and I'm like, I saw that you. I was like, yeah, yeah, I'm doing that now. Just like
yeah, yeah. It feels so weird. And it's one of the things I still haven't like figured out how to do that. As I'm like, this is the online world, the digital world is you know part of like our life. It's not like separate like the way old generations go. Like, well, there's the internet, and then there's like the real world. And I'm like,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
no, that's no longer the case. This is
yeah.
this is real.
Hmm.
But it still feels like that, and it's kind of hard to explain that to people sometimes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. And only my immediate family and my best friend know. No
Mm,
one else
yeah,
outside. Nobody else knows, and I have no intention of telling them. If they find out, they find out. But I wouldn't be
yeah.
to do
Mm.
it.
Oso, hello, Oso. Oso is my thumbnail wizard at the moment. He's the person who made that thumbnail.
Oh, okay. That's a really good thumbnail. Good sponsor.
Yeah. So you just decided to go and like I'm gonna do booktube stuff, and what I find interesting is like you've settled fairly quickly on like a specific format, right? You do mostly like vlogs and go like transitions and lots of like B-roll stuff and stuff like that. It's like what made you go that way and not just go like the talking head? Here's my tier list of like my favorite 10 um
But
characters or whatever stuff.
it was a combination of my personality and the type of creators I used to watch growing up.
Okay.
So most of the creators I watch are vloggers. There are a few that just talk to the camera like this, but there are a lot of them who vlog.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of my personality, I'm not talkative in like real life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm the type of person that can sit in silence for hours and you'd think I'm not there, but I'm not. I'm just very silent. So I felt
Yeah.
like it would be easier to do vlogs because I had a channel before
Mm-hmm.
the official one here. And in that one I didn't no words, no face, nothing. It was just B roll. And then I deleted that channel because I was nervous about it and then started a new one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I landed on that format.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. And but because the things like you still need to talk about like books, right? Because you can't just go like, "Hey, B-roll and books."
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah. Uh, I've had to do readings or like things in public speaking format before. So,
Okay.
like I said, the biggest hurdle for me was just not feeling like I was talking to myself on
Yeah.
long lines.
Hello, Kadia. Awesome, and hello, John. Thanks for being here. Yeah, and so to go further down that road is like you are from Trinidad and Tobago. Do you like? How does it feel to be? Because like a lot of like booktube stuff is very U.S. centric. Like obviously there's like a lot of Europeans as well, but it's very Northern Atlantic hegemony focused to use
Yeah.
that term, but you know what I mean, right? Like
Yeah.
it's very white. It's very U.S. British centric in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Like how does it feel to be someone from the Caribbean, and do you feel like you have to do something extra to be there to explain where you are from and all that stuff in a way that, like, I don't have to, right? I mean, I'm
Some,
German. I get away with a lot of things.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes there is pressure there to especially seem more interesting than I
Hmm.
am, because I feel like, at least with the algorithm, where the algorithm is concerned,
Mm.
a lot of creators, I've seen like new channels that come up, and because they are like in a specific part of the world, their channel blows up way
Yeah.
faster than someone I would see from a much smaller country.
Hmm.
So yeah, sometimes there is that barrier, um, but also it feels kind of nice because I feel like since starting my channel, I've found more creators
Hmm.
within my area, which growing up,
Okay.
that was a rare thing. Like, it was very rare for me to go on YouTube and see someone actually from Trinidad filming or vlogging or doing whatever it
Oh,
is, talking
nice.
about their life on YouTube. So, in a way, it's helped me to find community within my own area, which I appreciate.
That's really cool. But like, do you feel like sort of like in the pressure to actually sort of like include your like cultural background? I mean, obviously because you do vlogs, right? You do like a lot of like I'm going there and I'm going this and your recent one with the carnival and everything. You have introduced these kind of things, but like, do you think there's like an expectation that because you are not from the
Sometimes,
mainstream, you have to just sort of like include that because people kind of expect that from you? Or is that something that you don't think about?
um, sometimes, but for the most part, not really, because
Mm.
it just feels like everyday life to me. It's never been, for example, carnival, right? I know I mentioned
Yeah.
it in my last vlog, but I didn't go in because it's not something that I participate in, and I'm not gonna like
Mm.
do video acting
Yeah.
like I do if it's not something I've
Yeah.
never been interested in. So sometimes I do feel pressure to represent my country, but other times it's like this is just my existence.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's kind of like the sort of like what I was trying to sort of get at is like how to differentiate between like this is like who I am and this is like what you want me to be and what you guys out there on the screens kind of expect me to do to represent whatever, right?
Yeah, I feel like when I know I'm trying too hard when I have to do several takes of the
Hmm.
same thing.
Yeah.
Like, if I
Okay.
realize I have to record the same thing a third time, like, okay, I'm thinking about this a little too hard, or I'm feeling like I need to project a certain
Mm.
persona. So I stop recording, I gather
Yeah.
myself, and then I come back. And whatever take comes after that is the take that's going in the video. There's no redo after that.
That's a really good approach to doing that. It's like, yeah, because I think it's easy to kind of like obviously culturally I don't have that problem because I'm very mainstream. But like I recognize that when I talk about like disability because as a blind person I have to deal with these kind of things, right?
Hmm.
And it's like, am I what am I doing right now? Am I being myself or am I trying to sort of project something? It's like, but like that, like yeah, if I do like a third take, I guess I guess I'm stuck. that that's a that's a really good rule though. Really good.
Yeah, it helps a lot. It helps a lot.
Yeah,
And it takes the pressure off.
yeah. Hello, Ida. Um, we'll go into that in a minute, Ida. Yes, that is a Harry Potter in that thumbnail because Lily has been reading Harry Potter recently,
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
and because when it comes to like thumbnails, I was like, let's try to make something that's kind of connected to what's going on, and I'm like, Lily's been reading like Harry Potter. Let's do something Harry Potter, and then we go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, this
Um,
is my first time reading it.
but you kind of get into it like through the movies, right?
Yeah, from the very first movie, I've been watching it since I was young. It was a very like integral part of my childhood. But I actually didn't know the books existed for a while. I think it was until like the fourth movie, someone told me it was a book, and I was like, oh, okay, I did not know that.
And that's like an interesting thing because I, I think it's like, and I'm trying to do that in like a way that works, right? It's like, how does like because if you live like in Germany, if you live
Mhm,
like in the UK or whatever, you're like, yeah, Harry Potter is books, and then movies show up, and it's like, but if you like live somewhere else, the movies is probably the first thing that actually reaches you because
mhm.
of stuff of
Yeah.
like how the world works.
Hmm. It's sticking again. I'm reading your comments. Yeah, I realized he froze. I don't know what's going on. Oh, it's reloading.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's all good.
Welcome to where we ask the really really dumb questions that are big.
Um, yeah. I saw someone in the chat said they live in Belgium. So the Belgium, yeah, I believe that's how you say it. So the movies reach them first. And it's kind of similar here in that the movies would reach us first, but also in terms of culture, at least growing up, things like wizarding movies or anime or anything within that kind of category that didn't fall under action or like religious.
Hmm?
I didn't really have friends to like discuss those things with because no one was really
Mhm.
into it like that. So yeah, movies do reach us first before books, and some of the things that like a lot of booktubers I know read certain series like Percy Jackson and all of those things from young, and it was very like everybody was talking about it when they were growing up. It was not the same for me.
Mhm.
It was a rarity to meet someone who knew Harry Potter, like the movie from the jump. It wasn't until like the later movies when it started gaining worldwide popularity is when more people start to talk about it.
Mhm. But did you see them at the theater, or did you just like see them at home or whatever?
Some of them I've seen in cinema, but
Okay.
like the later ones I saw at home.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Daniel. Nice to see you here. Like yeah, I think the interesting thing with like Harry Potter is that like I read I only read the first three books because I'm like, yeah, obviously I'm a poser. I don't know fuck all about Harry Potter. um, I read them when my sister got the books, and that's sort of like a year before my sister's like a couple of years younger than me, and I read them those first three books when she got those books, and that's like right around when the first movie came out. And at the time, they weren't like a big deal either. It was more that our father worked for a German corporation that was also doing some publishing stuff. I'm trying to be vague here, and they published the German editions of the books. And he's like, I got these books; they're going to be big, and that's how my sister got those books, and she liked them at the time. And I'm like, I guess I'm going to try that, and I realized that it's not going to cut it for me because I I had already progressed from Lord of the Rings to like Silmarillion at the time, and then at that point,
Okay.
Harry Potter's not going to work.
Yeah, yeah, not sure that's good at all.
I'm an edgy 14-year-old. I don't want to talk about Harry Potter anymore. But yeah, it's interesting to see sort of like how like an sort of like a media property like Harry Potter kind of spreads in when it moves like by movie, and when it moves like by video game or like online stuff or books and so forth. So that's kind of why I was asking you about that, is like where you like why you not why, but like where you saw it first, like whether it was like a theater or like at home or whatever. It's like see like sort of like the weird way it spreads depending on where you are and how and when you are and all of that.
Oh, okay. But yeah, it wasn't any theater, and it was only because my mom, when we
Mm-hmm.
were like growing up, she was the type to go to the theater every week, and each time she would just pick a random movie. And yeah, Harry Potter happened to be the random movie that one time, and started watching movies after that every time they came out.
Oh, okay. That, Kale, is a quote that I, as a blind person, don't want to get into. um, but so like now reading it, like after seeing the movie so many times, how does like your reading experience of Harry Potter kind of
Um,
connect to the movies?
It's an interesting experience in that because I know the movie so well, because like ever
Mm,
since the very last one came out, I've watched them every single year and I watch them all at once. Like I can't watch one and pause. I have to watch all the movies all together. I feel like there are some moments where the books can get a little bit slow because I already know what's gonna happen. I already know how things are gonna go. But there are other aspects of it, like small little things that happen with characters, or like the friendship between Hermione and Ron and Harry, that I didn't get in the movie that I really love seeing in the book. We're frozen again. The third book is my favorite book too, for the very same reason that you said, Vito.
I'm back. I'm back. I need to figure out what's going on there.
Mhm.
Oh, let me find out. I think I know what is going on. I was a bad person because I was trying to actually get a book early today, an academic book on a certain topic that is Mormonism for reasons. And it turns out you have to go to like places that are currently IP banned in Germany.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah, I can see how that's
So I
working.
started a VPN, and
Mm-hmm.
which is now killed. I killed the VPN. Hopefully that will help because I had to, go places, and since then all my YouTube ads have been in Dutch, which I don't recommend. Apparently, you're really big into like toothbrushes at the moment in the Netherlands. Just saying. Anyway, um, no, I was just like to go back to that. Seems like sort of like how like the Harry Potter kind of fandom kind of moved from like being books and movies into like an online fandom and figuring out which house you're in and all of that stuff and so forth. And which house are you? I'm sure you did the test.
I've done it twice actually. Growing up, I was Gryffindor, but then
Okay.
after I hit my 20s, I became a Slytherin.
I'm a Gryffindor. I'm like, I look good, and I don't give a fuck about rules. That's like the key to Gryffindor, right?
Mhm. Basically, essentially.
He says as he's only read like 3 books.
No, but you have the gist of it down. That's what Harry does the entire 8 movies with the rules and somehow turn out to be the hero.
So yeah, um, but you're enjoying the reading experience as well, and I think maybe that's like part of like what I was trying to get at without getting too political, right? Is like avoiding the whole like sort of becoming like an online fan at the time kind of keeps you away from having to deal with the fact that the Harry Potter fandom and the J.K. Rowling fandom has become something of a hot topic, to put it mildly.
Oh yeah, 100%. Um there are moments when I do feel iffy about it because of how some people react. Um, but I'm also not like there. I feel like there's some things I can't let go of, no matter how
Mhm.
much I disagree with the person. Because like Harry Potter shaped my childhood. It took up most of it. It was a very important part of my growth. A lot of my personality is because I've discovered that I like certain things from watching movies like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think it's sort of like there's like a lot of like things going on at the same time, and it's like one part is like sort of like if we sort of like encounter something, whether it's a book or like a movie or like some music or whatever, like as we grow up, and then it kind of has like a huge impact on who we are.
Mhm.
Then going back and going like, I have nothing to do with that is like wrong because like clearly it's kind of shaped who we are. We can go like I disagree with the person, but clearly I'm you know it's made who we are.
Exactly. I agree. I agree so much. It has shaped who I am, and to deny that would be to deny a part of myself, which I don't agree with.
But does it sort of like impact your reading experience now that you go like knowing everything, having watched all the movies before, having experienced J.K. Rowling on like Twitter and the Everything app and all of that stuff? Like, does it sort of like make it harder to enjoy the book, or did just
It
curious?
did.
Like, seriously, just curious.
It did at first because I have had those books for a while and I
Mm.
avoided reading them for that very reason. Um, actually, I don't know what made me decide to read them again, like what made me get over that feeling. But yeah, it did at first. At first, I was concerned, but
Mm.
I also realized that I listen to a lot of songs by people that I don't like, so why can't I continue for the same reason? But
As a heavy metal fan, yeah, what can I say? There's so many terrible people
yeah,
in my playlist. You don't want to know.
yeah. So yeah, after a while, I got over it.
Yeah. Hey, Britain, cool you're here. Some people are asking about the dog they heard back barking in the background. Is that your dog?
Oh no, it's my neighbor's dog.
It's your neighbor's dog.
Yeah, but they have like a little fence on their right, like right next to us, and
Ah, okay.
yeah, he likes to bark. He'll bark at anything. A leaf will fall and he will bark at it. He's a very vocal dog. Yeah,
So I just read the chat and I was like,
I'm reading it now too. Someone says I hear a good boy, and he's a good dog for the most part.
yeah, I had to torrent some books on Mormonism because apparently they're hard to get.
Oh,
Don't read those books, trust me. Anyway, but that's like an interesting thing that I want to go from there. You recently read, and I watched because I watch your videos. You watched the Trevor Noah. You read the Trevor Noah biography, and you
hmm
enjoyed that. It's like and that's we'll go from you really enjoyed it, right? Like I mean, not enjoy, but like you got a lot out of it. Is I
yeah,
guess
I
what
got
it.
a lot out of it.
Mm,
In terms of well, not just finding out about what was happening in South Africa
yeah.
at the time, because I had no clue, and um, like just seeing how he dealt with certain situations. It's the
Mm,
type of book that kind of reminds you that sometimes the only thing holding you back in life is your own thoughts. Like your thoughts are getting in the way of you living. And that's what I like about that book. Um, but interestingly enough, after I posted it on TikTok, I had
mm,
so many people messaging me um, talking about how problematic he was. And I'm not in celebrity culture. Like I don't know what any of these people be doing in their free time. So
yeah.
I when people said that, I was like, what? What are you talking about? How did this happen? So it's been interesting. Yeah. But I
Yeah, it was,
look.
and that's like one of those like things that I find interesting, right? Because you're like, you talk about this and it, it kind of speaks to you in the way he talks about, racism and how skin color is kind of judged and stuff like that, and you talked about that in your video about it at the same time, and suddenly, because of skin color, even though you're like in a completely different culture, right? Suddenly
Hmm.
you're sort of like lumped in at the same time. It's like,
Hmm.
well,
Yeah, it is really interesting.
yeah.
Some of the things that were similar
Hmm.
between us was really interesting to see because we're continents apart, we're
Yeah.
generations apart, we're part
Yeah.
of completely different
Yeah.
generations. And to see ways in which um, things have traveled due to slavery, ways that, whether it be personality traits or things that we do as a culture that we didn't realize
Yeah.
stemmed from somewhere else. Yeah, it was a very interesting read.
But I find it also interesting that like people go like, well, you as a person of color clearly have to also like be responsible or like respond to like whatever Trevor Noah as a person of color talks about, and it's like, well, there's like there's like stuff between, right? you
Mhm.
know
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that's just like something I find interesting, because you can see something sort of like from your own background in that without sort of like identifying yourself completely with the other person, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I agree, and I think that's the interesting thing about books, and not
Hmm.
just books, but memoirs. Um, there's one creator I follow. I can't remember her exact name, but she likes to read memoirs by really awful people. Like truly questionable people. And her reason for doing it is that she likes to see ways in which she might be similar to them,
Hmm.
even if they're like straight up psycho. She likes diving into those similarities and analyzing it. And it's kind of a way that she breaks down herself as a person, like find out
Yeah.
about herself. So, yeah, I feel like that's something interesting about memoirs in general is that you can read about a person and realize how similar you are and how different you are. And you can also learn about things that you probably didn't realize about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm just trying to sort of like slot this in. No, not slot this into something, because I'm bad at organizing stuff in general. But I just find it interesting that you reading that Trevor Noah book and talking about like how different, like even levels of like skin color kind of, how there's like so many different levels of racism even between, how black you are, how not black you are, and stuff like that. It's like how that kind of happens, and then that's something like me living in like a country that is incredibly white, to put it mildly.
Mhm.
Like most Germans would never ever fucking notice the difference. They were like talking about black and white, right? Like
Yeah.
up here in the grim and frostbitten north,
Mhm.
and and it's important to sort of like understand that. And it's like something that like I find interesting to sort of like see from the outside, in sort of like how like I read something like that, I'm like, wow, this is something I didn't know before. Now I know something more. And you read that and you talk about it, and then suddenly you get like into struggles in sort of like that sort of like weird in that space where I'm like, I don't know what's going on. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It is very interesting.
And yeah.
Especially with well, like you mentioned, how there's like layers to colors. And I think in that video too I spoke about how I didn't really understand the concept of
Hmm.
racism until I traveled. Because
Hmm.
growing up it wasn't like my mom is white, my dad
Yeah.
is black.
Yeah.
To me they're just humans. I've never, like, growing up, even with my cousins and stuff, we've never distinguished
Hmm.
color, and I didn't realize there was a distinction until I traveled for the
Hmm.
first time. I was like, oh, you get treated differently
Yeah.
based on how light, how dark,
Yeah.
how exotic, how thick your accent is, how well you speak English,
Hmm.
how well you don't speak it. Yeah, it makes a difference.
Yeah. I found it like I don't know if you've read Modern James, A Brief History of Seven Killings. He's a Jamaican author, right?
Hmm.
And it's it's a historical novel about the assassination attempt against Bob Marley and stuff that kind of comes from there. And it's literary fiction. It kind of won like a Booker Prize and everything. And what's interesting is that he kind of switches dialect, like he switches levels of patois between different characters
Mm,
in that narrative to sort of like delineate class and, well, obviously also race, but it's very much also like a class kind of thing. It's like you have the
yeah.
people that, and it's something I, as someone who, whose second language is English, like English is not my first language, right?
Mhm.
So I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like, once I'm done with the entire novel, I'm like, yeah, I see what he's doing there, but like in that moment, I would totally not notice it. But now I know that there is a huge thing, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I wish I wish I knew when I was there. Well, I'm gonna pay attention if I ever go there. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, there is a difference, Anelia, especially with language, because I don't think Jamaica's patois is quite like Trinidad's patois. There are certain
There's differences, yeah,
differences, but there is still that level to it. So there's like dialect, which is what we'll talk most of the time, and then there's what we call standard English, which is when people, your quote unquote white voice is coming out.
yeah,
And yeah, sometimes you can, depending on your age and depending on the area and the type of school you go to, um, you can be treated a certain way if you speak proper English, and you can be teased for that. Like, I used to, when I was growing up, I used to get teased for that when I was in primary school because my accent wasn't like as trini as some of my peers. And if you like speak to me next to like trini to the bone, you will hear the difference. And it's because of the environment that I went to school in. I was
mm,
mixed up with a lot of people from different parts of Trinidad, but also different parts of the world. So there were always a lot of accents around me. So I just, my voice is like a mixture of my environment, basically. But yeah, sometimes people will be like, "You don't sound like you're from Trinidad. What does that sound like? Like, what do you mean?"
but that's like the thing is like if you tie like an accent to like an identity, that's also like a problem, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. Because even here, even people who are from Trinidad, sometimes when they meet me, they'll ask me, "Did you grow up here?" Yes. Yes, I did. I lived my entire life here. You don't sound that way. How am I supposed to sound? I don't understand.
But yeah, that's interesting to see how that kind of boxes you in a lot of ways and go like, I have to be this specific way, otherwise I'm not accepted as like a person from where I am. But on the other hand, I'm if I want to be who I am,
Hmm.
like without being, just like boxed in, then it kind of gives you like all kinds of like issues like in your local situation, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, there's a thin line that you have to like kind of navigate based on your situation. And well, I mean, I guess in my youth it was harder Because when
Hmm.
you're young, you care what people think about you a lot
Yeah, of
more
course.
because you're now learning to build community. But when you like get older, at least for me, when I hit my 20s, I just stopped giving a shit. I gave up on that, and I kind of moved on from those things. And now I'm in a position where I meet people who are similar to me that live in my area. But growing up, it was kind of hard.
Sorry, I just read biggest bad's comment. It's like, I did not go to Hogwarts. Trust me, all my prejudice very much learned. And that's amazing, Kadia, because like Belgium is small, and the Flemish part of Belgium is like that's like two football fields, maybe three, roughly. Hello, Scotty.
It's the same thing here in Trinidad,
Yeah,
Chadia, in that there are like certain areas that have
yeah,
like you know someone from South when you meet them. You know that they're from South just based on things they say, their accent, certain words that they know that we wouldn't use like on
yeah.
the west side as often. Um, yeah. And the west side is notorious for its accent. Like it's very
And
lots of Chinese like to talk about that online, West people accent.
I think what's interesting is like we have that like even in Germany, right?
Mm-hmm.
You hate the people from the next village over. You hate those people. They're like the worst people fucking ever, and you find some reason to hate them. And sometimes it's dialect, sometimes it's whatever else. And there's a like one of like very close to where I live, and I have friends in both of those villages, and they have had like an ongoing feud for the last 50 years because one village is all Iron Maiden fans and the other village is all Judas Priest fans, and they hate each other because of that. And there's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, yeah. We have
But
those
it's like
issues too.
you kind of have to hate your neighbors because they're your neighbors, right? And you kind of come up with stuff to make that work.
Hmm.
and and that's fine because that's just like how we are as humans. We kind of sort of like build sort of like communities around who we are, and like build like in groups and out groups, and it's kind of hard to kind of overcome that. And
Hmm.
it's interesting when like being an in group suddenly becomes something more than just like your more or less friendly struggle with your neighbors, because at the end of the day you still kind of are okay with your people, because even they're like the village next door, and you're gonna fight, but once shit goes down you stand with them, right? and
Yeah, yeah,
and it kind of comes, what I find interesting is like how suddenly turning that sort of like local personality kind of interest, a identity kind of thing, turns into something that you have to sort of project outwards to sort of like make sure people still like recognize you as people in a lot of ways.
yeah, yeah,
And that's something I find interesting, where I'm like, that's something where I see the Caribbean being like Trinidad, Tobago, Jamaica, all of these places being like very much like struggling with that, right? In a lot of ways, where you go like, we're not just like the party location for Americans. We're like actually our own culture.
yeah. Agreed. I know quite a few people who have like traveled here for the first time, and when we take them certain places, like we have a lot of springs and
Yeah,
hidden waterfalls here, but you don't see that like on social
yeah,
media. You don't really know unless you're a
yeah.
local. So sometimes when people come down and we carry them to certain places,
Mm,
like, oh, I didn't know Trinidad had that here. With like any other country, we would have
mm.
literally any other thing that, yeah, that any other country has. Like, that's normal.
Yeah, yeah. All right. To go back to like the reading stuff though, because
Hmm.
this is not about you being from Trinidad, and this is about books
Yeah.
at the end of the day. Sorry if it, but if it turned too much into the other thing. So how do you actually pick your readings? Because I know, you've been reading the Harry Potter stuff because you watch the movies and you're like, gonna read the books at some point. It's like, how do you pick your readings? How do you pick your books? And does that sort of like relate to you having? Did that change once you started to have like a booktube channel?
When I started, it was really just I had a like small white shelf, all of books that I had not read and I had
Yeah.
read for years. So just like I just want to make my way through that shelf, and that's how it started. But when I started BookTube, it's kind of sometimes I get the urge to read popular books because I would see like a lot of content come up on my page on my channel with some of my favorite creators talking about it, and I'd feel kind of left out of the conversation. Um,
Yeah.
for the most part, it's just random, and
Mm.
most of the time, it's that cover looked great, so I'm gonna pick up that book. I read the book. That sounds interesting. Bye.
Mm.
That's how it usually goes. And even though I create TBRs, I usually don't ever stick to them. I literally just go on vibes. However, I'm feeling in the moment is what I'm gonna
Mm.
read in the moment.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, at the end of the day, like, whatever makes you read a book is like the good reason, right? But
Mhm.
I was just like wondering because like a lot of people go like, oh, I'm doing booktube now. And there's like people doing videos now like how booktube destroyed my reading because I tried to read all the books that booktube told me to and all that stuff. I'm like, no one told you, but like it's interesting to see how sort of like once you have a channel, right? Like how that sort of like changes your mindset on like what you do and what you don't do. And that's sort of like what I was trying to get at. Like it's like how did that change your reading in any way?
It did in terms of, like I said, I feel like there's some
Mm.
popular books that I have to read in order to be a part of the community, even if I may not necessarily be that interested in it, because everyone is talking about it. I feel like this pressure to pick it up because everyone's like, it's great. And
I'm gonna send you a list. No, I'm not.
yeah, and yeah, sometimes it makes me a little mad because then, I mean, there are some popular book talk books that I've read that I like, but there are a lot I've read that I don't like at all. And yeah, it does affect it, but at the same time, I'm
Mm.
very open to all books, even genres that I wouldn't necessarily say that I like or
Mm.
I enjoy. I'm very open to books, and
Mm.
I like to do a mix of both.
Mm.
So I might
Yeah.
read like a few popular books, but I'm also going to read whatever interests me.
Yeah, man. You're reading those notes from the underground stuff, so good on you for that. But like, I was just like, when you pick a book, do you think about like whether it's something that like people on social media talk about, or is it something that you just go to the bookstore and you're like, oh, this is like either on sale or this looks cool or this like
It's really a this looks cool. Like it really is a that looks nice. I like that
yeah,
cover. That
I
shade of
get that.
pretty. Like it is very much randomized.
Yeah, yeah. I was just like wondering because like I know a lot of people sort of like build sort of like their reading around upcoming releases
Mm.
and stuff. And I'm like, how does that sort of like impact you once you decide to actually start a booktube channel and be like a booktuber, which I never did. Like I didn't start to be a booktuber. I was like someone dared me to actually make a video about like a Malazan topic, and I made a video, and that's kind of how I started. And I'm like, this was never a plan.
um, there are ways in which it does in terms of
Mm-hmm.
um, like popular books. They are like some series where I would hear people talking about it and I'd be like, damn, I should have started that series like a long time ago. So one of them right now, a lot of people are talking about Bookbound because the it was recently released, and there's like so much discourse online, and I'm lost, and there is like a background pressure of me to pick up the book, but it's like not strong enough that I'm gonna entirely throw away my TBR, you know?
Yeah. Uh, I think no. Give me a second. I made the mistake of listening to you and then reading the chat, and I'm like, how do I combine that? I'm not good at this. Like, I'm I'm not a public person. um, no, I think it's what I find interesting is like once you start thinking about like a YouTube channel or whatever, right, as something you need to decide what to read for, and suddenly the channel becomes the thing you make choices for,
Hmm.
and that's something I'm struggling with. Obviously, sometimes I do. Most of the time, I go like, "Well, everyone tells me to read this book. I'm going to go fuck you." I'm going to read the opposite right now, and then I go something else and stuff, and it works as well as you might expect. But it's sort of like suddenly having this channel as sort of like something that is sort of like hanging in your like awareness as something you know I'm
Hmm.
talking about books in videos, so whatever I choose to read is going to impact what I'm going to talk about in videos, and in how to kind of sort of square that.
Hmm.
Although I personally sometimes I read books that don't talk about it in videos and go like, well, I read this book, and then like 2 months later I'm like, yeah, I did read The Spear Cuts Through Water. Sue me. but but I think it's interesting that that way that like once you start talking about books online, you make it like a channel kind of thing, right? Even if you don't want to make it sort of like something that helps you choose your books or whatever, it kind of sort of like always is sort of like at the back of your mind. I'm like,
Oh yeah, it definitely impacts it. It does. Especially when I think about channel growth. Yeah, there are times where I would get that urge to pick up what I know
mm,
would be a popular book and what I know
mm.
would bring in new people to my channel, but then you know, I don't like the book, so what do I and how do I talk about a book that I don't like in a way that's not gonna offend my subscribers and make them disappear, you know?
I always try to offend my subscribers with that. Biggest bad has like a really interesting question though.
Hmm.
What book you'd never heard of surprised you the most and
The
made you wonder? You read the question.
Yeah. The first one that came to mind as I read the question is called 5 Feet Apart by Rachel Lupino. I believe that's how you say it. Um, it's kind of a Fault in Our Stars esque in terms of the atmosphere, and that it's like two characters dealing with an illness that they don't really have a cure or way to come back from. And I've never, like, not once heard somebody talk about that book, but when I read it, I eat it up. So yeah, I that's one book that comes to mind immediately. Or the Bone Witch trilogy. I've spoken about that series quite a lot on my channel, and I've never heard anyone else mention it.
That's like an interesting question. That like Bone Witch, I'm like I was sort of aware of it, and you talked about it, of course. But like I'm like, do you think that you being from like a Caribbean cultural background or whatever, like not just cultural background, like social media background, kind of you read different books that like most of booktube being white Americans sort of read different things, right? And you like, I'll read this and that no one else talks about it. Is that something you feel, or is that something you don't necessarily feel? Is that something I feel as a German? I'm like, Americans do booktube in like a very different way than we do over here, when we are like all very serious and we do very German stuff.
Yeah, I do think there is a difference. I feel like a lot of American booktubers gravitate towards mostly like fantasy and what's this next one? Romance. Yeah, romance. I feel like most of the creators that I see, that's the genre that they read, and like the creators that I follow who are not American, who are either European or they're from Asian countries, that's where I tend to find my more diverse
Mm,
readers in terms of trying out different things. Um,
mm.
so yeah, but I do think Americans do booktube in a way that's very different from literally everyone else.
Well, yeah, I do agree. I was just like wondering if it's just like, you know, me being like angry and over here, and I'm like, no, apparently it's, other people as well. So that's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Good to know.
No, it's very different.
But that's like the thing is like, and it kind of came up like weeks ago, months ago, when I was talking about me being super excited about reading Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor, and you're like, well, it's going to take a while for it to actually show up in Trinidad. And what I find interesting about that is more like, do you think that sort of like being outside of the mainstream, very like American dominated sort of like distribution network of like publishing and whatnot, do you think that kind of changes how you read books, what kind of books you read, how you think about books, how you talk about books? Do you think that impacts that? Because you know, you're not going to get like a book on like official release date, because official release date is official in the US, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I would say it impacts it. There are some books that that's the interesting thing about publishing too, because there
Mm-hmm.
are some books that would be recently released and I would see
Mm-hmm.
them in the bookstore and I'd be surprised because to me we take a while to get a lot of books. And then
Yeah.
there are others where I'm interested, but because it's not like as popular on social media platforms,
Yeah.
it doesn't come down as quickly. There are some books that it takes months, even years, before they actually make it to Trini shelves because they're not as popularized as some
Mm-hmm.
of the other books that would be there in a week, 2 weeks, because of how popular they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel like it does impact my reading in that you would never see me doing a vlog with reading new releases. Like that's not realistic
Yeah.
for how quickly books get down here. But it also allows me to be a more diverse reader because there are some books that I've never heard of, like on social
Mm-hmm.
media, but they're on my shelves. So I will pick them up, I will look at them, and I'd realize, oh, I found a great book that probably no one else has ever mentioned because it's not popular.
But do you think that like being not US American
Mhm.
kind of gives you sort of like the responsibility to talk about books that Americans are not talking about? Or is that something you're like, well, I got these cool books and no one's talking about this, so I'm gonna do that? Or is there like an expectation? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. No, there's no expectation. I just, I just read whatever and I talk about whatever I'm reading.
Okay, cool.
I don't really feel the pressure there to, uh, like, I don't feel the pressure to read popular books all the time, and I also don't feel the pressure to like not read them. I just kind of read
Yeah.
whatever and share because I know even if a book might not be popular, there might be one person that watches that video and is glad for that recommendation, and it might change their entire life. And that's my goal at the end of the day.
But Kadia asks you if you have read, if you only read physical books or also ebooks.
Um, it depends. I would read an ebook if it's like a romance or something that I could fly through. but I do prefer physical books because I don't like holding devices in general. Like I don't like I can't be on my phone for too long because I don't like holding it. I know that sounds strange, but I don't like holding it. And as light as a Kindle is, it's not that light, you know. Like if that's on your wrist for a bit, you feel it. And like I said, I don't mind ebooks, but I would quicker pick up a physical book over anything else. I'll probably only use an ebook if I like can't find that book physically and I really, really, really want to read it. Um, but other than that, no, I'm not really an ebook person. I don't know if that would be subject to change, but that's how I feel right now.
No, but, no, that's totally valid. Yeah, interesting. I don't read ebooks. I mean, I do, which means that I have to sort of like close off my fucking VPN because otherwise I can't go to libgen, which you should totally never ever go to unless you really need to get academic texts for reasons.
Hmm.
Currently, it's libgen.is. It may change, but now you know.
I know. Yeah, you're not an ebook reader. Is there a specific reason why, or you just
Hmm?
it's just not for you?
What?
Ebooks, like, is there a specific reason why you don't really pick them up, or it's just like not for you?
Well, for me personally, it's like the being blind thing is right. The
Mhm.
big deal, right? It's like I take an ebook. It means I have to use like a screen reader text to speech to actually go through a text, which is
Mhm.
sucks. It absolutely fucking sucks. But for most like academic, scientific, or whatever texts, that's just like what you have to deal with because no one will ever make like an audiobook out of that because you know. And my braille skills are vestigial at best. And no, I do not have to look up the word vestigial, but close to. No, I just don't like. I learned braille when I was like 15, and 15 is not a good age to learn like a new skill because you're like absolutely focused on a lot of other things.
Mhm. Yeah, your concentration is a bit different then.
I was 15. I discovered punk rock. I discovered beer. I discovered sex. I was very much not involved in like learning another language. You know what I mean? Just didn't. You know, to be clear, like 16 is legal drinking age for beer in Germany. So it's
It's the same here in Trinidad.
oh,
Yeah, 16 is the legal age for alcohol.
a
Well,
smart country. What's a legal age for driving?
driving is 17.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
a lot
that's
of
smart.
people
I think it's
drive.
people should learn how to drink before they learn how to drive because the other way around is dangerous. I mean, both ways are dangerous, but like one is more dangerous than the other one, right?
Yeah, considering the party culture that we have here, I think that order fits us.
Yeah. It's like, look, get hammered once before you realize that there's like a border.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you can still do like dumb shit, but don't drink and drive. That's like an absolute no go ever. But like, be aware of the fact of like what drinking actually does to you before you actually figure out how to do the other stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like an interesting thing though. To go like before we go back into book stuff, like your last vlog, you were talking about the carnival, and you're not that much of like a carnival person, and how much do you sort of like actually sort of like identify with like Trinidadian, whatever the actual like adjective is for that culture? Are you like I'm like 150% Trinidad, and or is it something that you're sort of like just like I'm just like, curious? You know what I mean?
Sometimes I feel like there are times when I feel 100% Trini, but there are other times where I feel like I'm 60% Trini, 40% something else. And it's mainly because, yeah, there are a lot of activities that I don't participate in, like carnival. And carnival is a very big part of our culture. People are planning and prepping and organizing for it
Mm.
months in advance. And my friends, I do have quite a few friends who play carnival. And before they used to like ask me every year, "Do you want to play this year?" And I'd be like, "No." Till eventually they stopped asking because they realized it will never happen. It just won't happen. And like I said, we are a very fun country in terms of we like to lime and we like to, do fun stuff on our Fridays and our weekends. But that's just not like I would go to the pub, but I probably wouldn't have a drink. And sometimes someone might make you feel weird for that, but yeah, it's just not for me. So there are times where I feel like I'm not quite trini enough to say that I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah.
Especially if another trini points it out, I'd be like, okay, all right, I guess not.
But do you feel that like being from Trinidad versus being one of those like huge, like culturally huge countries,
Mhm.
that it's sort of more important to sort of like be Trinidad? You know what I mean?
Yeah, sometimes, sometimes it does feel that way. Um, Sometimes, especially when I now started my channel, I
Mm-hmm.
used to be worried about talking about certain things, like certain hobbies that I
Mm-hmm.
have that no one I really knew at the time enjoyed. So, for example, anime. I never used to tell people growing up that I watched anime because there was this idea that it was just cartoon. And for a long time, I felt that way, but then got into my adulthood and I realized it really isn't that way. And there are a lot of trees that like carnival, or like
Mm-hmm.
goth trees. Goth trees are so hard to find. Like they're very rare, and whenever I see them, I just want to grab them because like I'm probably never gonna see you again. You're so rare. I'm probably never gonna see you again. So yeah, there are times when there is that like pressure there, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I think I grew up secure enough to not let it affect my self esteem.
Okay, I was just like wondering whether it's you know, there's a pressure to sort of like represent. You know what I mean?
Um, Sometimes, yeah, but for the most part, not really. Because
Mm-hmm.
although Trinidad, like being Trinidadian, is a part of who I am, because this is where I grew up. This is the environment I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also don't like feel the need to represent entirely because that's not what I signed up for in a way.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly your choice, right?
Yeah, like I didn't, start my channel with I need to represent Trinidad. I just started it with I want to talk about books and that's what I'm gonna do. And if
Mm.
my culture translates onto the screen, that's fine. And if it doesn't, that's fine too.
And I was just like wondering because this is sort of like this cultural sort of like assumed sort of like null point, which is apparently North America,
Mm,
and you're like you're not that. You suddenly have to explain where you are from, and sort of and suddenly you're like, oh, I'm the Belgian booktuber, I'm the German booktuber, I'm the Trinidadian
mm-hmm.
Trini booktuber, whatever you know what I mean. It's like
Yeah.
suddenly your culture becomes a thing because you have this sort of like assumed null point, and that's
Mm-hmm.
something I find interesting because it's like why?
Yeah.
I mean, I know why. Like on like an purely objective level, I know why. It's because there's most of you, but still.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are times where I feel like I need to like mention it.
Mm.
Um, which is strange because why? And for real, why do I feel the need to do that?
I mean, for you, I think what would you do? Like vlogs and stuff, and like introducing, using a lot of like B-roll from where you live and stuff. Like, obviously, it kind of comes in no matter what you do, right?
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. And I feel like, at least for me, there are a lot of spots in my vlogs that I are very new to me, even though I've been living here
Mm,
my whole life. There are a lot of spots that are very new to me, and I feel like for someone who doesn't live in my country, and like if the first thing they see about Trinidad is carnival and they're not into carnival, I feel like they don't like expect anything else outside of
mm,
that. And sometimes I do think about how my vlogs could impact someone who probably wants to visit but isn't like visiting for the intention
mm,
of carnival. There are certain places that they can go that you know isn't just
mm,
Lyman. So yeah, there is like a pressure there to kind of show other sides of my country that isn't just fats, you know.
mm. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Chris is asking like if there's like lots of like bookstores like Waterstones and Barnes and Nobles and stuff. Is that something that is big in Trinidad, or is that, do you have
We
like local bookstores, like
we
cool
have
bookstores?
local bookstores and we have a mix of chains and independent. We don't have like Waterstones and Barnes and Nobles, any of those names. Like we don't have any of those. We have like local chains. I don't know how far our local chains run. Some of them run throughout the entire Caribbean, but some of them are just for Trinidad. So a chain store we have is RIK. That's the one that you'll probably see most in my vlogs because I'm always in there. But yeah, and we have Nigel Arkan, and we have Sharon's, and I think I'm missing someone else. We have Muhammad's. So those are like our chain stores. But then we have independent bookstores um, that I go to as well, which are independent bookstores would focus more on Caribbean literature, while our chain stores do a mix of Caribbean and popular books.
Mm.
But yeah, we don't have a Barnes and Nobles down here. I wish we did, but we don't.
Well, that's like an interesting question though. Like, when you talk about Caribbean literature and stuff, but like, how localized is that? Is there like a specific kind of culture where you create, where you sort of like build up Caribbean authors and
In recent years, yes. When I was growing up, not so much. But in
hmm
recent years, we have a few local publishing houses that try to
hmm
promote local authors as much as possible. But that's only been within like the last 3 years, if so much, probably like once after
yeah.
COVID happened. But prior to that, at least to my knowledge, not really.
hmm
Um, and even now, there are like a lot of people that I know who don't know Trinidad authors. Like don't know even myself. There are a lot of them that I don't know. I haven't read any work from. Um, but there is like a mission to change that based on what I've seen on social media.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever read any author from Trinidad. I think like Nalo Hopkinson is from. I think she's from Tobago originally, but obviously she lives in Canada now. But I think she's from Tobago originally. Like, grew up in somewhere in Trinidad and Tobago, but I don't know where exactly. But I think it was Tobago.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I, but it was more like trying to figure out like sort of like where whether there's like a specific sort of like attempt to sort of create like um a literary culture that you can, that is then sort of like propagated through like bookstores and publishing houses and so forth, and create sort of like a literary identity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we have one publishing house that comes to mind. I think it's called OM Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
They've been making an effort to kind of bring local literature to the forefront. But for the most part, in terms of social media, um, at least from my side, I can't speak for the entire country,
Yeah,
but from
of
my
course.
side, I haven't really seen um, local, like, not in the way that I would see publishing houses raving in America, like not in the way that they
Hmm.
would go all out and they'd have sign-ins and stuff like that. Um, I feel like that's still very new to
Hmm.
us down here, and we're still working on that. And even with our local chains, they would quicker talk about like a popular book talk book, because I mean at the end of the day, it's a company and their goal is profit. So they would quicker talk about popular books than they would
Hmm.
like Caribbean literature because it isn't as marketable. Yeah.
I think maybe that's like kind of part of the problem, right? It's like you're like the Caribbean is so often sort of like being seen as like as an appendix to some other culture, right? And it's like
Hmm.
you're sort of like the yeah, it's where pirates hang out.
Yeah.
I know it's so close to just like put on like pirate disguise again, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, there is that idea of the Caribbean is a specific way, especially based on like the music that would be put out there, especially where like Jamaica and Trinidad is concerned. We're
Yeah,
mostly known for dancehall and soca, but we have music outside of that that does not fit that genre. It's just not as popularized as that genre. So yeah, definitely.
I think it's like one of those interest like sad parts, right? It's like that because you're the Caribbean in general and Trinidad and Tobago being sort of like the places no one thinks about it. Everyone is like that Caribbean. That's Jamaica and the other islands, right?
Oh yeah, there are
And so
so
you
many
get, like, your second row even in that specific sort of like thing, right?
Yeah, there are so many times where people have asked me if I'm from Jamaica or if I'm from Barbados. And I say, no, I'm from Trinidad. And it's not the same place. No, it's not. It's not the same place. And funnily enough, Caribbean people do distinguish ourselves based on our country. But when we go outside of the Caribbean is when that like line gets very blurred.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to sort of like because what it shows at the end of the day is like how if you're not like from a place, how you sort of like compress everything into like this one image. I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's the Caribbean is Jamaica. It's like it's Pirates of the Caribbean. It's also Bob Marley. It's also other stuff, I
Hmm.
guess. And I'm like, well, it's a whole fucking place.
You're right. That is the image that most people get when they think of the Caribbean. And yeah, a lot of the times they think just Jamaica. Like they kind of forget that there are like several other countries going down the chain. I've met some people who think the Caribbean is one country.
Wow,
Yeah, genuinely.
that's interesting. I was not aware of that, but holy shit! Like, how fucking frustrating is that?
It is frustrating, especially when people ask you questions about other Caribbean islands and they expect you to know the answer, and you're like, I'm not from there. I don't know. I don't know.
you know, the different places.
I saw
Yeah,
someone said there's a divide between Spanish and English speaking Caribbeans too, and there is. There 100% is. There's definitely a divide. There's also a divide in how English you are,
yeah, yeah,
like how English is your English.
yeah. That was kind of what I was getting at with like the brief history of Seven Killings, because like what Marlon James does is like he's like seven, eight, nine, 10 different like characters, and they're all like written in like first person, and he changes like the level of patois and the level of like dialect
Hmm.
from like full on British English to as like as patois as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about sort of like to signify like different levels of class and different like
Mm-hmm.
where you're at in a lot of ways. What I found interesting is to kind of tie that over and then we can go back to talking about like Spanish and stuff. Is that when they translated the novel into Spanish, they get two different translators, one for Castilian Spanish and one for Cuban Spanish, to sort of like represent those different levels of like language
Mm-hmm.
in those, you know, in the book, to make sure that people understand that it's like, you know, the level of dialect does actually make a difference. That's kind of the point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. I saw someone said that it used to have Danish islands in the Caribbean. Yeah, it did, and yeah,
Mm,
some of them were sold over to the U.S. Um, and I think we have two or maybe three Dutch islands. I
mm.
don't know if they're still Dutch. Two of them might be. I'm not so sure about the third one. Um, but that's kind of how the Caribbean feels. I feel like the first half is very to the US. Like there are some people who would consider Bahamas the US, and
Yeah.
it's not. And then there's sometimes people who would mistake Trinidad for like South America. They would consider us part of Venezuela, but we're not. Like we're an entirely different country, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of like important to sort of like have that, because it's easy to sort of like go like, well, main language is English. I guess they're American. It's like,
Hmm.
no,
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 no.
no.
It might get more important right now, but it's always been important, right? That's I think that's like an interesting question as well. It's like is that something you kind of sort of like have to deal with the way you go? Like, well, we're sort of seen as sort of like the backyard of the U.S. for whatever reason, and people kind of expect us to also read the same way, think the same way, do the same way, but whatever. Or is that something that is just like from the outside?
I feel like it's more from the outside.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, it's not really, at least, I mean, we do have our divides down here, like our own personal divides in terms of like culture and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, but it's never really affected me. I've never really noticed it until I
Mm.
travel and speak to someone else from another part of the world. Like, oh, that's your perception. That's not how it
Mm.
is where I'm from.
Now that was kind of what I was curious about, like because there's a lot of people go like, well, but the Caribbean is like it's basically like the U.S. backyard, and I'm like, is it though? I don't know. I don't think so, right?
It's not. I mean, there are quite a few things that have um, transferred due to culture, especially when
Obviously, yeah.
is considering a lot of our TV is Americanized, but our culture itself, there are a lot of things that Americans do that we will not do. We will not have as a part of our culture. Just it's
Yeah.
different. It's like it's so different.
That's like another thing that I find interesting though is like how much of that, and we're gonna go back to books immediately because I don't want to turn this into like, hey, you as the one Caribbean person that I've ever talked to, tell me all about the Caribbean. But like, before we go back into books, is like, do you think there's like this expectation, sort of like from the outside, to be different, but sort of the same? You know what I mean? Like different, compliant, different. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, there is pressure in a way
Mm,
to fit in, but also not fit in too
mm,
much. Because, I mean, society likes individuals, but not if you're too individual.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very strange spot to be in because
Mm,
you want to build community, you want to feel like you're a part of the community, but at the
mm.
same time, there are certain things the community does that you're like, That doesn't really resonate with me so much.
Yeah,
It's a very strange spot to be in.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Does that sort of like impact your like approach to like how you do like booktube stuff, or is that something more like a general vibe?
More
Because
like a general vibe. I feel
okay,
like, at least when my channel is concerned, um,
hmm?
I try not to think about it too deeply. 'Cause then I'll
Yeah,
second guess myself, and I don't want to
yeah.
look at that. So,
No, I totally get that. The trick with like doing booktube is like never ever thinking too hard about it, because as soon as you think too hard about it, you're gonna give up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah. That's very true. There are like a few videos that I've started and scrapped because I was
Yeah.
like getting too into it, and I was like, no, we need to take a step back.
But booktube's like a football. You're gonna kick it down the road.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, but that's like how much do you actually plan ahead when you do like book like vlogs or something, and vlogs, or do you like go like, well, I'm gonna start with this, or do go like, well, today's the first day to start filming this vlog, so I'm gonna talk about whatever I'm thinking about right now, and then I'm gonna see what happens afterwards.
Sometimes it's planned to an extent in that I have an idea of what content I want to do next, whether it's a vlog or it's a chatty video. Like I have an idea in advance for some videos. So, for example, like reading wrap ups, monthly favorites,
Hmm.
those literally come at the end of every month. So
Yeah, of
I know
course.
they're coming up. But like reading vlogs, those literally just happen on the fly. I would wake up and I'd be like, you know what? I feel like filming today and I feel like reading, so I'm gonna do
Yeah,
both.
yeah, that's cool.
Or if I like get into a book and I realize that I want to talk about how the book is making me feel, I would just start vlogging that in there.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is memory keeping. In that, yes, I'm gonna talk about books, and that's what want to talk about. But for the most part, I started my channel as a way to kind of retain what I was reading and what I was doing
Hmm.
in my life.
That was something I wanted to go back to. It's like, how much of that was you sort of like trying to get back to like you as a teenager reading and going like, well,
When I first started, yeah, it was definitely trying to get back to teenage me because I feel like teenage me, at least like 15, 16,
hmm,
17, she had a tenacity for life that 21-year-old me kind of lost. 21-year-old me became an adult and she was a little scared of being an adult. um, so there were a lot of things that I like kind of bottled up about myself, and
yeah,
I felt like I need to be serious, and I need to like cool serious things and super chic things. And um, then COVID happened, and COVID taught me life is too short for all that shit. So I
yeah.
was like, you know what? Yeah, just gotta do what we like what we like, talk about it, and that's okay. So yeah, a part of it is going back to myself, which I think every 20-year-old goes through at some point. Every person in general, at some point, you kind of reminisce on the things that you used to do as a child, and then you're like, why did I stop doing that? Because some random adult told me so. Why? That
Am
makes
I,
no
am I the one
sense.
exception because I never stopped being like the 15-year-old punk that I've ever been?
How fortunate you are.
Oh yeah, it's called privilege. Don't get me wrong. It's absolute fucking privilege. But yeah,
Yeah. Some people have like I know a few people who have never like lost that part of themselves, um, but I feel like, well, like I can't speak for anybody, but I do think that lockdown time was a very
yeah.
formative time for quite a few people,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and I was one of those few people that reflected and I was like, what am I doing with my life? Where is this going?
Yeah, and that's like the things like beyond any things like if you want to talk about it, it's like what do you do when you don't do like videos? You want to talk about that or not?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Hmm?
Well, I work in retail, so my job mostly consists of um, retail stuff, but I work in admin, so it's mostly paperwork that I
Yeah,
do. So, like documents, Excel sheets, very boring stuff.
yeah,
Very boring stuff. And well, outside of work, I read books, obviously, and um, I like going outside. I enjoy outside, but I
mm,
love my house. I love being in my house.
yeah.
I enjoy that quite a lot. That's really it. My life is I really don't do anything crazy. it's,
Oh,
it's pretty
yeah,
simple.
yeah. That's totally fun. I'm mostly annoying my neighbors with like 90s punk rock, which I really hope my neighbors hate. I really hope my neighbors love propaganda.
Yeah,
Well, I'm sure they do because they haven't called the cops yet. So
that's a good sign.
you know. No, but beyond that, no, but it's just like I think it's interesting to see sort of like what booktubers do when they don't do booktubers, like working retail or working, you know, because like a lot of, you know, we come from like very different like places. Like that kind of impacts like how you read, how you think about books, how talk about books and stuff. So I think it's important to sort of like get sort of like the rough background.
hmm Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think if I was in like engineering, my reading would be totally different. Not, retail. Retail is it's retail.
Well, I got a degree in computer science, so
Oh, okay.
and my reading's fucked up. So maybe don't.
Yeah, I have one friend. He's a reader, but his degree is in engineering as well. I think
Mhm.
it's civil engineering, and the way he analyzes books and the type of books he reads is
Mhm.
so very different to the type of books I read. And he's very analytical with
Yeah.
his books. Yeah. Whereas, I mean, sometimes I can get analytical, but most of the time I'm just reading because it's fun.
God, I'm reading the chat and it's dangerous.
Oh my god, growing up is overrated. I agree with that. I don't know.
Absolutely. Look, yeah. That growing up is for amateurs.
It is. And when I was young, I used to like that. That is something I know. I'm sure every kid has gone through that, but especially Caribbean children. We
Mhm.
always tell our parents, "I can't wait to grow up and move out and have my own space and do my own thing and make adult decisions." And then you become an adult and you realize, I don't like making adult decisions. I like to let somebody else do it. And I just got to have fun.
No, actually, the only choices I want to make is about like what I'm gonna eat.
Yeah.
Like, just give me the right to eat pizza for breakfast. And I'm good.
Literally, that's my main goal of the day. What am I eating? So to have to go from what am I eating to how am I paying this bill and how am I figuring that out and
Yeah.
what appointment do I have to go to? I just no one told us. No one
Yeah,
told
yeah.
us.
All I wanted was pizza for All I wanted was pizza for breakfast, and now I have to do taxes.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Allow yourself a midlife crisis. Yeah, I recommend that too. Gives you perspective.
Yeah. Nah. So, what's your plans for reading like for the next couple of months? You got like any like stuff you're looking forward to beyond the Harry Potter stuff?
Right now I'm very much in a fantasy mood, so I will be reading a couple of fantasies. One of them is gonna be a popular series, which is A Court of Thorn and Roses. I held on reading that for such a long time because the discourse on it is interesting. Uh, but I decided to, and well, springtime is very much a classics time for me,
Hmm.
but I do know that like summer is gonna be Caribbean literature. I
Yeah.
just I know it's gonna be Caribbean literature.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm very much a mood reader, so it's whatever
Yeah.
is happening at that
Whatever
time.
comes up.
Yeah, whatever comes up is what it is.
I have not read A Court of Thorns and Roses because I'm very much not the target audience.
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Angry old white men are not the target audience.
I do think it is quite a specific
Hmm?
uh, target audience. Like that's not a book I would recommend to quite a few
Yeah.
people actually.
Not, I mean, obviously, it's big for a reason, right? Like a
Yeah,
lot
it
of
is big
people,
for a
it,
reason.
it can it connects to a lot of people, and
Yeah.
I'm very much fine with that.
Mhm.
You know, I don't read that because I don't want to read books that make me angry before I know that they're gonna make me. It's like I'm not gonna read Twilight because I'm not a teenage girl. It's not gonna work.
I cannot reread Twilight. Like I read it when I was young and it first came out, but I can never reread it and not be
Like
upset.
as someone who always wants to tear up off their shirts, I'm totally into that on one specific side, but you know, it's not gonna happen. But it's important. I think it's important to understand, like, sort of like what's the target audience, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I can go back and read, I don't know, Fourth Wing or whatever, and Court of Thorns and Roses as well. It's like, and go like, it's had like a huge impact on like the fantasy genre in one specific way, but right now no, it's not gonna make me happy. It's not written for me.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna enjoy this.
Mhm. Yeah, that's completely valid.
Yeah,
I'm, yeah.
I want I want I want angry books by angry authors.
Fair enough. Those are very interesting books.
No, and that's like the other part, right? Like for me, I'm like, this is cool because you there's a huge market for this, and there's a lot of like people who really really enjoy this, and I'm like, that's cool. That's
Mhm.
like amazing that this exists, and I'm like from the outside, I'm like, I want to I want to understand this, but I'd rather talk to people who read the books than actually read the books because
Yeah,
you know
there's some books like that, especially popular book talk
Mm,
books, where I
yeah,
would rather ask someone for a summary than ever pick it up myself because
yeah,
it's not for me. It's not meant for me,
yeah.
and that's okay.
And that's like an interesting thing is like I mean, you're doing like shorts and stuff on YouTube. I know that because
Hmm.
I pay attention to your channel. No, my point is, how much does like sort of like book talk sort of like influence what you do, and how much attention do you pay to book talk? Because there's if you're not on book talk, because if your main thing is like booktube or bookstagram or whatever, right? Like you do something else that is not TikTok, right? You always have this like huge cloud of like book talk is, you know, big book talk is sort of like impacting you. It's like, is this something you pay attention to?
Um, is it? I don't think so.
I don't know. I
I
mean,
don't.
you do shorts.
Yeah, I I don't know. There maybe in some ways it can in terms of for example, like I said, I love staying in my house and I will choose it 9 out of 10 times. But
Mm,
because I vlog, I do find myself putting the effort to go outside even when
yeah,
I don't want to. So it does impact it in ways like that. Um, and in terms of TikTok, yeah, it does impact certain content that I would put up. So like I don't really talk a lot on my TikTok. It's more like short vlogs because I just find that more engaging for the platform itself. In comparison to YouTube where I would sit down and actually have a conversation because I feel like that works best on YouTube. So it does impact it in some ways. But I don't think it's a big impact or necessarily a bad one either.
yeah. Because I have not read Dragonfall. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm very much out.
Is it a fantasy? It sounds very fantasy.
Yeah, the wine problem in France is something that I, as a German, am very fine with the French having because it's still the French. But no, I have no idea what Dragonfall is about, and I suspect it's really bad.
It's a
Because
romantic fantasy.
yeah, I am also like 150% sure that Biggest Bad has not actually read that book. No, um, that was just like because like I'm deliberately not paying attention to book talk, but I also see like a lot of like booktubers going like, "Oh, and book talk is so terrible," and I'm doing the smart thing, and I'm not gonna do the book talk thing, and it's so weird because while you're pretending to not do anything connected to book talk, you're still sort of like relying on it because it is sort of like the big thing, and you
Mhm.
suddenly put like the you suddenly put like the algorithm of like the bigger sort of like social media platform sort of like above you no matter what you want to do, right?
I agree with that. I do think that some people try to act like book talk doesn't uh, affect them or that they don't care about it, even though they have whole accounts on
Yeah,
that phone. Um, but I think because I've spent so much time curating my feed, I don't get a lot of the negative stuff where book talk is concerned. Like
yeah,
a lot of discourse that I would see that I would only hear about it until it gets like really, really big to the point where the news is involved. That's when I'd be like, oh, I didn't know there was drama happening with this
yeah,
author or with this creator or with this book. Like I wasn't there until it gets like really, really big. And I think it's because I've made it so that my feed stays a specific way. And as
yeah.
soon as I see, and that's only for TikTok. For
Hmm.
the other apps that I'm on, I don't curate it. And I think the reason I curated TikTok the way I did is so that I wouldn't spend as much time on it as I used to, because it used to be ridiculous. And I wanted to reduce that. So that's how I ended up curating my feed. So yeah, the negative stuff on Book Talk doesn't really impact me. I usually don't know about it until I see like a commentary channel bring it up. And I'd be like, oh, I didn't know that was happening.
Yeah. And I stayed away from TikTok because it's not exactly like an accessible app if you're blind. Just
Hmm.
no, trust me, it sucks a lot to put it mildly, and I'm kind of glad I don't have to pay attention to it.
Yeah, I do think it's the type of app that if you don't have um,
Hmm.
control or if you're not like very intentional with it, it will
Yeah,
suck you in. It will definitely.
I think because it kind of just like plays you stuff no matter what you're asking for. It kind of drags you in. It kind of draws you in. It's super
Mhm,
easy to kind of be sort of like, you know, drawn down this thing, right? And
mhm. Yeah,
it
I guess
can be, yeah.
my screen time with TikTok used to be insane, and it is because I would go from one topic to like 10 other million topics throughout it. And yeah,
Mm,
it's an app that would like suck you in, to the point where you like you're ever on the internet and you see something and you're like, okay, that's enough for today. It's time to
yeah,
close everything and step back from
yeah,
the phone because that last bit was a lot.
yeah,
That used to happen for me a lot with TikTok, especially with like negative content.
yeah.
Uh, there would come a point in time I'd be like, I need to delete this app, but then I re-downloaded it, got more intentional with my curation, and now it's not as bad. But I can see why some people will stay away from the app entirely.
I think it's also like very much like a generational kind of thing. And
Hmm.
me as an old white man, I have to say this. My sort of like approach to the internet is like a very different one, right? I'm like, I'm gonna deliberately like search out things that I want to talk about and I want to think about and I want to watch and shit like that. And
Hmm.
something like TikTok that just like forces down like an fucking hose pipe of stuff down my throat. I'm like, I'm losing control, and I'm not used to like using losing control. I'm not gonna do that, and it kind of makes me sort of like bristle and go against that. And I think that's like a huge difference, right?
Hmm.
Where I mean, but on the other, that's kind of like what makes TikTok and like book talk in as a part of TikTok kind of work is sort of like you kind of trust the algorithm. It kind of gets you stuff that kind of feels at least close to what you're good, and
Hmm.
then it kind of goes, no, no, I'm fine with this, I'm fine with this, and I'm fine with this, and then like 2 hours later, you're like, holy shit, how did I end up?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I saw Ida said I found people are generally quite nice on TikTok, but maybe I've been lucky. I I agree in that I've never experienced negative comments. Well, in general, actually on YouTube too, I haven't experienced negative comments or negative people or just negativity in terms of people at me. It's more been more like intense things that are happening around the world. Sometimes if you like stay on TikTok long enough, you're gonna end up in that rabbit hole of the world is on fire. Not necessarily,
yeah.
people.
Well, Daniel, people are still on Twitter, and those people usually call it X, the everything app. Those people are, to put it mildly, fascists.
Yeah, yeah. Twitter is the app. It's even from when I was in young, I was in school, and back when it was still Twitter, and it was at least popular for my generation at
Yeah,
the time. Mean app, very
yeah.
mean.
I think the thing is like, and there's a space for something like Twitter. Twitter is sort of like Twitter was like the digital equivalent to like the stuff you write on like your bathroom wall,
Hmm.
like your public bathroom wall. It's for like tours and dick pics, basically. Well, drawn with the sharpie, but you know what I mean, right? It is that's what Twitter was, and that's cool because there's something happening in those kind of conversations. Like if you have like only 150, 140, whatever, 320 now, whatever,
Hmm.
you have that limit. It's made for shit posting. It's made for like puns and dumb jokes and really, really shitty jokes, and that's fine. But you know, don't make it more than that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
And sadly, it has become something else.
Yeah, it has. Over the years, it's changed quite a lot, at least from what
I think
I
it,
know
I think
experience.
it's mostly that people actually sort of like pay attention to it. And I'm like, no, Twitter is not something you should pay attention to. It's sort of like something you can sort of like notice to sort of like get like the background vibe, basically.
Hmm.
That's it.
Hmm.
Because that's like that's something that people do while they're like, you know, taking a piss, basically.
Hmm.
And that's not what should like dictate politics or anything. But we are in the wrong timeline. What can you do?
It's true. It's true. Um, yeah, Twitter is an interesting app. It's a very interesting community. And well, I think social media in general, try not to take any of it too
Yeah,
serious, especially the um where comparison is concerned. Like
yeah,
I know a few friends who will not start a YouTube or a TikTok or any kind of social media, even if they wanted to, because there is that worry of comparison in the back of their mind, which I understand.
yeah,
Experience it too myself. Um,
yeah.
but if you learn to take it with a grain of salt, it is not bad.
Well, is that something that kind of when you started your channel, you kind of were like worrying about like with your specific accent that you're like, I'm gonna turn myself into like a target or something?
I was concerned when my accent is concerned. I was mostly concerned that people wouldn't understand me or that I would speak too fast because I have been told in person that I speak quite fast, especially to people who are not from Trinidad. I have had, especially Americans. I feel like for Americans, at least every American I've met, they're like, "You talk too fast. This is slow for me." So I don't know what you like.
How
Yeah,
much? How much are you slowing down right now?
uh,
How much are you slowing down right now?
um, I'd say probably about 40%. I've slowed down.
Okay, speed up. Let's see how fast you can actually go. No, 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 like, we can always slow down again. It's more like that. Let's see what you mean by that. Just like
Okay. So, for example, right now I'm speaking a
yeah.
standard piece so that I'm sure that everyone can understand me.
Hmm.
But if I was really to talk how I always talk, I would be going a lot faster than I am right now. And you probably wouldn't be able to understand everything that I'm saying. And then I'll lean into my dialect and you'll be confused because there are certain words that aren't in English that I speak, and I'll like Trinese, there are certain words where we cut down the letters. So them, them, we cut it
Yeah.
down. And if we put it next to a word, it's gonna sound jumbled.
All right. Yeah. Speak faster. Faster, faster.
Well, it usually only happens when I'm like talking about something extremely passionate. So if I like just finished reading a book and I want to rant about it, yeah, my words would start to blend into each other.
Oh,
But for the
perfect.
most part, when I'm like talking with people,
Hmm.
this is the piece that we work with.
Yeah, no, seriously, speed up. Not that I mean, we'll find out when I kind of tap out, but you know what I mean.
Mhm. Someone said Caribbean and Irish accents have similar speech patterns, and yeah, it's very true. It is. It is very similar, even in the melody of the words. Yeah. So I know some people find Irish accents difficult to understand. Um, but for us, well, at least for me, it sounds normal. It's gonna rain here soon, just in case you'll stop hearing.
Interesting. I was not aware that like Caribbean the Irish thing, but then I live in a country where we don't have like actual melody or speech patterns or everything. We do like mechanics and stuff.
That's
It's
a
true. Trust me.
Mhm.
My English is very good. Passports, please. God's right. Nah, I'm really not good at the German thing.
Yeah. So,
I'm a very bad German. Which is, because I've never, ever been on time for anything.
oh, sounds like you're trainee.
Maybe.
Yeah, we're not on time for a lot of things.
Uh,
Um,
eh, you know. um. All right. To bring this back to books and stuff, right? You get like stuff you're looking actually forward to, like reading in this year, like stuff that's coming out this year, something you have like on your. Because you're a smart person, you plan things. I don't know shit, but like, do you have like books on your list for like for the rest of the year? You're like, I'm gonna read this whenever it comes out, and you know,
in terms of new releases, not so
yeah,
much. The only
okay,
one that I had on my radar was Watermoon, because I do like Studio Ghibli, and any book that is Studio Ghibli esque, I would want to read, and that's one that
yeah,
caught
okay.
my eye. But more so, I think my focus for this year is most of my physical TBR because it needs to be reduced. It needs to be reduced. So that's where my focus has been.
the those tethering those, those towers of books are
Yeah, then I'm running out of space, so they need to. I need to get through them.
be the job aid to those fucking towers, those biblical towers of Babylon books. They have to go down. Yeah. Anything else we gonna talk about?
um,
You got questions. You got like things you want to say. You want to ask. You want to, you know.
I actually wanted to talk about music a bit in terms of. I know you listen to a lot of heavy metal.
That
Um,
is sometimes happening. Yes.
has it always been something that you listen to, like from youth?
I kind of came there from like the. I started out more like with punk rock, and then I came from punk rock to heavy metal.
Oh, okay. And is that the only thing you listen to, or are you diverse with your music taste?
I I'm very continentally Europe in European in that regard. Like I listen to punk rock, I listen to heavy metal, progressive rock, a lot of like English sort of like folk rock stuff.
Uh huh.
Um, that's sort of like the thing is like I struggle with sort of like going to something that is completely different. So I have to sort of like build like a connection to what I'm already listening to, and I can I can build like a connection, then I can go to the next thing, and I go to the next
Mm-hmm.
thing, and the next thing, right?
Uh-huh.
And, and that's sort of like how I go to places musically. I think mostly.
Okay. Okay.
I've been going like back into like a punk rock thing over the last couple of weeks though, because Canadian punk rock band Propaganda have like a new album. They have a new album coming out in like 2 months, a month, I think,
Mm-hmm.
2nd of May, and they have a new single out, and I'm like, it kind of like threw me back into like me being 15 and being angry and having a mohawk and being very punk rock. You can't imagine that. But like I used to have like a mohawk, like a blue mohawk for like years and years and years.
Wow. Okay.
No, no, that's very much where I come from. I'm a punk rock person.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up
And
on like a NoFX and Bad Religion and that kind of stuff.
fair enough. And in terms of reading, is there any like specific you asked about new releases. So, are there any new releases that have intrigued you so far this year?
This year's been hard. Like last year was like super interesting. I got like a lot of really cool stuff, and this year I'm like, there's a new Chuck Tingle novel. I'm like really looking forward to because Chuck Tingle is Chuck Tingle is Chuck Tingle, and even if it's not dinosaur erotica, it's still gonna be interesting. Not, no. I've been a fan of Chuck Tingle's ever since he wrote that um, Harry Potter related interesting book, Trans Wizard Harriet Porber. I mean, don't necessarily don't necessarily read it because I think it's like his serious Chuck Tingle's serious horror novels are actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
The rest I'm on board with because of political stuff, and I'm like, yeah, you show them, you good. But both Camp Damascus and especially Bury Your Gaze were incredibly good novels, and his new novel coming out in, I think, September or maybe October. I'm kind of, you know, confused about dates, but it's called Lucky Day. It's going to be good. I have full confidence it's going to be good, and I'm really looking forward to Syria Moreno Garcia's new novel, Bewitched, Rewitched. No, 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 the Bewitching. It's a dark academia thing that is sort of like about like Latine sort of awareness stuff in like a New England old school academia. Yeah, it's a dark academia meets like racism against Latine people kind of thing, and I'm sure it's going to be amazing because her last novel, The Seventh Veil of Salome, was so fucking good.
That
In
does sound interesting.
doing, I love that. It was so good. It's cool shit. Is what I'm saying.
It sounds very interesting.
So that's something I'm. The rest, I have no idea. Like, I mean, there's a new Glenn Cook novel coming out apparently, and we'll see how that goes. And Glenn Cook is certainly someone I'm always going to read whatever Glenn Cook does, and he's also in his 80s, so who knows how good it's going to be, right?
Mhm.
And beyond that, I don't know. Whatever comes up.
Yeah.
There's the Harmattan season by Tochi. It's an African name. I'm so bad at pronouncing names in Tochi Oniebochi, whatever. It's a West African sci-fi noir kind of novel kind of thing. It's coming out in June, and I'm like super excited for that because it sounds like something that might absolutely, be interesting,
It does.
and weird.
I'm
Yeah.
curious to what the like if you've noticed a
Mhm,
discourse where new releases are
mhm,
that a lot of booktubers that I follow, they have vlogs where they have read like new releases.
mhm.
There's been a consensus that none of them are really hitting, especially the way last year's new releases have. Have you experienced that too?
No. I've like last year I've read like a bunch of like amazing books that are like absolutely like I think it's sort of like where you're coming from, what you're gonna do. Like last year, there's books that I read last year that absolutely fucking hit hard were like The Sapling Cage by Margaret Killjoy, which is transgender witches, anarchist transgender witches. Really cool shit. Like really good stuff. Like it's the first book in Defenders of the Empty Throne. It's about like, a kingdom that, you know, dethroned the king, decided that you're actually good without a king. And it's kind of cool if you actually, organize stuff on a local level, and then they're gonna figure out like how to be, on the. It's all written from like a trans girl trying to become a witch, because only girls can become witches, and trying to figure out how, what it actually means to be a woman or not, and dealing with that and figuring that shit out. It's really cool. And there's amazing shit. That's like really good stuff. And then I read Metal from Heaven by August Clark, which is lesbian biker bandits robbing trains and taking down capitalism. And it's amazing. It's cool. It's really there's a lot of like crazy shit going on, like Mohammed's God's names. Premier Mohammed's The Siege of Burning Grass. Amazing book. It's like how to do like non-violent non-violent resistance against war and against totalitarian regimes and shit. And it's amazing stuff. It's happening, but if what you want is like a straightforward like action plot, then you might be living in the wrong time, because that's not what we need right now. Right now, what we need is figuring how to actually make sure we don't end up in like total fascism. But
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
that's a me thing, right?
No, no, no. It's a shared view. It would be unfortunate if, as a society, that's where we ended. Don't know how
Yeah,
much we'd be able to go.
yeah, and I think it's important to understand that like there's a lot of like super interesting shit going down right now in fantasy, in science fiction and so forth, and
Hmm.
people are not like paying attention, because like we want something that is sort of like following the old sort of the straightforward like plot that we've always sort of like followed. And no, that's not what we read. What we need right now, what we need right now is something else.
I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone asked what kind of music I like.
Hmm?
Um, Similar to my books, I'll listen to anything. Like I won't disregard any kind of music. But what I gravitate towards most of the time has to be indie music, um, like melancholic music. So uh, less Lana Del Rey, less anything that kind of seems a little sad. If I'm being honest, if it's a little sad, I'm probably gonna like it.
Let me introduce you to like actual doom metal. Maybe don't.
But yeah, I'm not like I listen to everything, every genre that you could think of. I will probably listen to it. I probably know at least one song from it, and I like listening to music in other languages too, even if I have no clue what they're saying.
Lily,
Mhm.
can I give you like a lot of responsibility for like 2 minutes?
Sure, what's the responsibility?
You entertain everyone while I'll get myself another beer.
Okay, sure, no problem.
Tell them the most irresponsible jokes you can come up with. It's still my channel, so what could happen?
I'll do that for you while you get your bear.
All right, I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Okay. Hello, you guys. How are you guys doing? I'm trying to read through your comments. Um, I'm not very good at jokes, if I'm being quite honest. I'm not very good at them at all. We also have election coming up soon in Trinidad. I see someone here mentioned that Australia election is on May the 3rd. I'm actually not sure when our election is. I should probably look into that. But there has been a lot of discourse around it. Due to the like two main parties, there's unfortunately quite a lot of corruption. So that has been making moves in terms of social media and the way people interpret interpret stuff, basically interpret things that have happened. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to talk about. I've never done a live stream before. This is my first one. I hope you guys are entertained. What books have you guys bought recently? Like, what's a book that you bought recently that you're like dying to read? Oh, I'm not a good singer. I'm not a good singer. I don't recommend doing that to your ears. I don't. I don't think I should hurt you like that. I'm not a good singer at all. I'm going through the comments. Someone mentioned about the Taino people. Yeah, we still have some here. We have Amerindians. Most of them have been wiped out, unfortunately, but some of them have still remained. There are some generations that still remain. It's very small though, and you do have to go to like a very specific part of Trinidad to get in contact with. But yeah,
Oh fuck. Well, is everything burning?
no, I think we've managed to not start a fire.
I am disappointed. No. I was like, nah. It's again like I'm already back, so we're good. Just scrolling through the chat to see if I missed something vital. Also, thanks for actually, taking over on like very short notice, and you have no idea how much trouble I had to get to actually get that new beer.
Oh no, it's all good.
What you mean? You want singing? I don't sing.
It seems that you usually sing.
What? I never sing. Where did I ever sing?
I think they're trying to set you up.
What? You set me up for like singing. Did you? What did you claim I would do? What did you claim I would sing?
I just asked them what I should talk about because I've never done this. So I didn't know what to say, and they said you usually sing.
I guess the question is like what they want me to sing. Do you sing? Do you?
No.
No.
Maybe like in the car down the road, but I no.
And that's like a good question. Do you play like any instrument? Do you like music stuff?
I did when I was younger, but
Okay.
I kind of fell out of it. And
What did you do?
I used to play the piano, but I didn't get very
Okay.
far with that. Like,
I played bagpipes because I wanted to annoy my neighbors. I
mhm.
still do when I want to annoy my neighbors because trust me, bagpipes at 3 a.m. Absolutely.
Oh no, at
Get
3
your neighbors'
a.m.
attentions. No, that shit gets your neighbors' attentions.
It definitely will.
I feel justified because I'm fine with them. They're like, they're cool, right? My
Hmm.
neighbors are really cool. They are Jesus freaks, though.
Mm.
Like, when I say Jesus freaks, they are part of like that specific group of like they call themselves Jesus freaks, right? So it's specific kind of evangelical, whatever, and they have like their Sunday worship thing at like 7 a.m. and it's like next to my bed, like right, like next wall. And I'm like, you sing worship him at 7 a.m. on Sunday. I'm fine with like playing bagpipes at like 3 a.m. on Saturday night. I, I'm sorry, but you know, you have to live with this. I have to live with the other thing. We're good.
Yeah, when you put it like that, yeah, that's understandable.
I don't know any fucking sea shanties biggest. I'm sorry. I live in that part of Germany that doesn't even have fucking like a seashore. We have nothing. It's like rye bread and rye beer and nothing else. It's grim. It's fog and trees and nothing else.
Imagine,
It's like Canada in that regard, in that respect.
do y'all have like beaches? In terms of, I mean, I know there would be shorelines, but are they like I know there's some places where they don't have like sand and it's rocks before the actual water. Is it like that?
Um, so like in Germany, you have like both the North Sea and the Baltic, and both of them have some sandy beaches. But it's like it's fairly northern, so it's like it's a summer thing, right? Like
Hmm.
it's super fucking cold in winter, right? Like it freezes over in winter, is what I'm saying.
Hmm.
It's that cold.
Oh wow, that's very cold. I can't imagine all water
Like
freezing.
I'm not good with like parallels and shit. But yeah, that's like the North Sea is that's it gets very fucking cold.
Mm.
I've been at the beach in Lübeck, which is the Baltic side of things for like a New Year's party with my then girlfriend at the time, and it was like -5 Celsius, which is
I can't
I
even.
guess like 20s, 30s, in like freedom units. I don't know.
That's cold.
No, it's just like zero is like freezing point. Like, it was below freezing, is what I'm saying.
Wow, that is cold.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, that's I can't even fathom that type of temperature.
No, we're in the grim frostbitten north, man.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
It's it's Vikings all the way down, and I'm the worst of them.
I'm always curious about that. If I would be able to actually survive cold weather, because cold weather for us here is you wake up really early, like 3, 4, on a
Yeah,
rainy night, and
yeah,
you happen to be in the middle of the woods or the forest.
yeah.
Well, this is a forest. That's cold for us. Like for Trinis, we'll complain about that. So I can't imagine snow and frozen lakes. That's that's crazy.
No, 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 we have snow. It exists. It may surprise you, but actually, snow exists.
Wow. Yeah. I
I think like the coldest I've been, and that's that's Germany, which is still not that far north, right?
Mhm.
I think the coldest I've been was like minus 15 Celsius,
That is
which
cool.
is yeah yeah that's like this is like 10 something Fahrenheit. I don't know. It's super like, see 0 Celsius is like freezing point is what I'm saying. So it's like
Well, we run on Celsius here. We don't really
okay,
use
so
Fahrenheit.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay. So you don't have freedom units.
yeah, yeah,
All right, so minus 15 Celsius is fucking freezing your ass off.
yeah. It is. Here we would complain in about 20 if the weather drops because it's usually like a 37, 40. Sometimes it gets up to 50, 60.
Like, I was
Anytime
out.
it drops, we're like, wow, it's gonna snow soon here.
No, my minus 15 Celsius was like when my dog had like at the time I had a dog and she was like, "I'm gonna make it very quick because I don't want to be outside, man." And I'm like, "Well, you good? I'm not gonna say no." It's gonna be fast.
Yeah, I do think it depends. Someone mentioned that it depends on in terms of the temperature. And my mom, she loves cold weather, so she would love a cold country. But I don't know. I don't know how fair. I don't know if I'll survive that. Hmm. Someone asked if Trinidad is big on religion. Yes, to an extent. We have three main religions here: Christianity, Islamic, and Hinduism.
When you say Christianity, are you like Catholic? Are you Protestant? Are
It's
you
broken down.
evangelical?
So we
Okay.
have Anglican, we have Catholic, we have Presbyterian, we have Seventh Day Adventist, we have Methodist. Like there's a lot, there's a lot of layers to it, but Catholic and Anglican are the most prominent. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the British heritage, I guess.
yeah, yeah. Yep, that's exactly it. And I think our main cathedral is Anglican. I believe it is. Could be very wrong though, but
I'm a Catholic boy. I'm no, I'm not. I mean, I'm I'm baptized Catholic, but it's not like I'm the most religious person in the world.
Mhm.
Although I've read way too much like church history.
Oh yeah, church history is some of the things that the church got away with. Wow, just
The thing is, like I studied history at university, and I've spent way too much time doing like not just like church history, but like also like canon law, like church law stuff.
hmm
So I kind of know where stuff is coming from, and I'm like, I kind of get what you're doing, but you know,
hmm
that was 1200. we, we may have moved since then slightly.
That's true.
But
Uh,
that's interesting that so you're like mostly Anglican from like the British colonial kind of background, I
yeah,
guess.
a lot of even though I think I said earlier that we do gravitate more towards the US in terms of like TV and stuff, but in terms of like our systems and laws, we fall very much under the British colony because I believe that
Mhm.
was the last colony to like officially be in charge of the country
Yeah.
in independence. So a lot of those things do fall under that, including our church. And yes, religion does affect our politics heavily, heavily, uh, to the point where it can get kind of brutal.
Hmm.
where opposing parties are concerned. Sometimes they throw in race and religion into the mix when they're going against each other for election time. So yeah, it does affect it. Um, but yeah, even though religion is a major part of it, there are a lot of Christians I know. I can't speak for Hinduism or Islamic, but there are a lot of Christians I know who don't. They're not very religious. Like they believe in God, but there's like an extent as to how far that goes. It's not a like I
Hmm.
know there's some areas in some countries where they do everything by the church. It's not necessarily like that for us.
But it kind of does still influence like your politics, right?
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does.
That's interesting. Like even if you because like the thing with like the Anglican Church in particular is like head of that church is whoever is like the octogenarian in charge of like the monarchy in England, right?
Hmm.
And like beyond anything else, like even if you're not officially a British colony anymore, it's like you're still sort of beholden to the king,
Yeah, and
kinda, I
yeah.
guess.
Hmm.
Is that something that kind of comes up when you have to sort of like deal with the fact that obviously Trinidad is not a British colony anymore?
Sometimes, yeah, in terms of how, well, like you said, in terms of how it would affect our politics and certain decisions that we would make based on appeals that we may have with
Hmm.
other countries. So, for example, something that happened recently that caused discourse in the country is that you didn't always need a visa to go to the UK, but now it's a requirement. And it's brought up a lot of
Okay.
discussion on social media where our standing is with the UK and how different it is, like how different it was before compared to how it is now. In terms of migration, it used to be a lot easier for us
But is
back.
that like a King Charles thing, or is that like a Keir Starmer being totally the, I guess, left compared to the even further right of like everyone else kind of thing?
I'm not sure, I know. Never really dived into it, but it's possible. It's possible that it's more so the latter.
Yeah, I suspect so because uh, and I'm not gonna make you say anything on that, but like fuck that guy. Like he's doing like fascism, but like in a more orderly way, and
Mm.
that's like the one reason why British people elected Labour was like, we don't want to have those fucking amateurs. We want to have professionals to actually destroy our country, and it's working, I guess.
uh, Someone said they were surprised that English is the language, like you think English and not Spanish. Yeah, I get that a lot. I get that a lot of people say that, and
Mhm.
Spanish is technically officially recognized as a second language. However, it only became like more serious in terms of how many people speak it since recent years, where we have like more Venezuelans moving to Trinidad. But prior to it, we didn't really take we didn't really take it serious, if I'm being honest. Like there are not a lot of Trinis that I know that can speak fluent Spanish if they didn't do it in school.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, but yeah, like, culturally, I think it's like you know that's what colonialism does for you, right? It's
Hmm.
like you end up with the same language for like ever and ever and ever.
Hmm. You do.
Just ask the people in Haiti and see what they say about French.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
don't.
yeah. Don't for real. No, for real. But if you pay attention enough, you can get a general idea of their
Yeah.
thoughts. My Spanish sucks. It's not good at all. I could understand basics, but I can't speak it.
Or my Spanish I learned from the guitar player was Mexico City thrash metal band singer, and so I can say "Chicaro madre puta." That's it. And I can say Simon Cabron, and that's it.
Yeah, my Spanish is very, very basic. I can say hola. I can ask you how you are. I could probably
Yeah.
tell you're doing great, and that's it. We can't go any further than that.
Yeah. But, like the thing I've learned over the years is like when you learn a new language, it's like you want to know how to insult people, and you want to know how to order like food and drinks. The rest is, negotiable.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to yell at people, and you're going to get like food and drinks, and that's it.
Yeah.
The rest is good.
Honestly, agreed. I think for language learning, the basics you need is direction,
Mhm.
and yeah, that's about it. Like everything else is by the wayside.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's you've ever been outside of Trinidad? You traveled beyond Trinidad, right?
oh yeah, yeah.
Where?
A few places. I've been to the States a couple of times, specifically New York, Philadelphia. I've been to the Bahamas, Curacao, Aruba, Guyana,
Yeah.
uh, Miami. Yeah, that's about it. So I'm also been on the western side. I haven't made it quite to the next side of the world, but
Ah, okay.
it's a goal.
I mean, it's like a huge fucking like difference in pay, right? Like it costs like way more to go to like Europe than it costs to go to like the US, for example.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's like much easier to travel between Caribbean islands than to travel from the Caribbean to like a bigger country. Like I could book a flight to Bahamas much easier than booking a flight to the US. The US has like a lot more steps that I have to make sure are secure before I actually get to the ticket part. Whereas the Bahamas, I could just pick up myself, or Barbados, I could just pick up myself and go.
I like right now you don't even want to know what they also want to know from you at this point, but
What do you guys want to know?
they might ask you about all the things you've ever posted on anything online and stuff, right? Like, but like beyond any of that, like going to say like Europe or like is like because you have to still cross the US, right? Because you're like, there's a continent between like here and like Europe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there are like some. For example, if I was to go to the UK,
Mhm.
the chance that I might get a direct flight is rare. I'm probably
Yeah,
going to have to pass through another country to
yeah,
times the US to get there. So, for example, to go to Mexico, I'm most likely going to have to pass through the US before I get there. And for us to go to the US, we need a visa. You have to have a visa to get to the
yeah.
US from here. So yeah, like I said, there's extra steps. So depending on certain countries, like I say, for Caribbean countries, I can just go. For South American countries, it depends on which one it is. I could just go. But once I have to pass through one of the bigger countries, there are more steps involved.
This is an interesting question. Is like, does that sort of like, how does that like kind of feel? Like, is it sort of like because you're like sort of like stuck like geographically like stuck in this like weird place where you kind of have to sort of like rely on the US the US's good graces to sort of kind of make stuff work for you. Is that something that you feel, or is that something that like me as like an angry anarchist from the West kind of imposes on you.
In a way, yeah, it does. It does make it difficult in that if I wanted to move to a specific place, there are a lot more steps I think that are involved
Mm,
that I would have to do. So, like, I've seen like on YouTube a lot of people who would move between states. Um, I can't do that. So I could probably move to a state in US, which would be its own process. But when I get to that state, if I decide to move from that state, that's going to be a
mm,
whole other process. It's not going to
yeah.
just be a hop and go type of thing. It's a lot of steps and a lot of approvals. And even then, there's so
Oh, yeah.
many.
So you can go like Trinidad to say Massachusetts, and then you're stuck in Massachusetts, and then you
Mhm,
go. If you want to go to fucking Pennsylvania, you have to figure out something else and
mhm.
shit. Ah, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In terms of if permanent residency, like living there is your intention. If you're just traveling, it's pretty easy in terms of like once you get there. But
Yeah,
if you wanted to live there, a lot of steps that you have to take, and even then,
yeah,
I think the biggest hurdle is getting acceptance to actually go. Because there are a lot of people I know who do all the steps necessary and they go to
mm,
apply for their visa and they get rejected. And it happens a lot of times. Or they apply to university and they go for their student visa, but it gets rejected for like one small, minuscule thing. It gets rejected and they basically have to start the process again and push
yeah.
back their admissions due to that. So, yeah, there are ways in which it definitely affects it.
And that's like before, like the current thing
Yeah,
being the current thing. Holy shit.
yeah. So I'm curious to see how the current situation affects how it ripples out throughout the system as we go forward.
Well, I mean, my guess is it's going to be bad, but you know, you know, not
Probably.
exactly like a risky like proposition, but it's just like wondering, like, because like so much of like what we do, like not just like to move this back from like just like politics, right? Like no, so much of what we do is sort of like focused on the U.S. as this sort of like cultural center, academic center, academia, culture, and all these other things, and you kind of have to deal with them, sort of like being the black hole in the center of like what we call culture, right? And
Mhm.
you kind of have to deal with that. And it's
No,
going to get interesting in a lot of ways.
it is. It is. That's something that I feel has come to the forefront a lot in recent years. In that, for a very long time, I feel like America was considered this um,
Mm,
centralized place, like you said, but not
yeah.
just that. In terms of the idea of what people had when they were moving to the U.S. and like in terms of the things they like to say, "land of the free,"
Mm,
and I know a lot of people who have left Trinidad and moved to the US, and it's not what they were expected, in that the vision that they were sold is not quite the vision that they're experiencing,
mm.
based on how certain things have gone. And yeah, it's just interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be, and that's kind of why I was trying to bring that up, right? Is like that it's something that like you as sort of like from the Caribbean in general, like not you personally, but like the Caribbean has sort of like dealt with like the US as sort of like this like cultural black hole. It's
Mm,
something you've dealt with like for the longest time, and Europe has dealt with this as well, but Europe has been able to sort of like ignore it for the longest time because it's Europe. We still have like French movies
mhm.
and shit. And it's interesting to see sort of like how this is going to change because like clearly like the politics are going to probably also make like American culture like worth less because you know you know
Yeah, yeah,
and it's interesting to see that, and it's like how you as someone who's been like closer to like the sort of like orbit and has been sort of like how you guys have been dealing with that, and like how that's gonna sort of like impact like how you do culture, how you do movies, how you define your own culture in sort of like tension with this massive thing that's over there. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
And how you kind of build that tension. Go like, no, we're not like those people.
Mhm. Mhm.
Also, we still kind of have to live off those people coming over and giving us all the money and shit like that. Like, but it's still different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
There
just
is
bad.
definitely discourse where that is consumed,
Hmm? Yeah,
especially. Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely discourse with it.
it's like only if you want to talk about that because at the other I can see how that's gonna be like you know
Well, in terms of
depending on where you are, like a very personal kind of thing, right?
yeah, in terms of like culture change, I
Mm-hmm.
do think due to the recent influx of Venezuelans coming to Trinidad, there will definitely be a culture shift
Yeah.
slightly. Like I said before, we never really took Spanish as our second language serious, but now it's starting to become a requirement for certain jobs because there
Yeah.
is more citizens here who speak Spanish than there ever was before. And I
Ah.
definitely think it would change the culture in terms of like certain things we say and do.
Mm.
But I feel like Trinidad's culture is very unique in its own right, in that I've never really seen our culture replicated anywhere else. Not that there aren't similarities, there definitely are. Um,
Mm.
that's beauty of generations of colonialism. That's how it works. But yeah, but yeah, there's also this like uniqueness to it that I haven't really seen anywhere else.
Mm.
But I do think there will be cultural shifts as time goes by, as political parties change, as there's more discussion about certain things that are happening in the world, especially in the US. Because I feel like for a long time, can't speak for other trainees, but for like myself at least, I used to think that it didn't affect us as much, like decisions made in the US. Yeah, they wouldn't really affect us that much. But then when you get to the nitty gritty of it and when you get to the behind the scenes, you realize a lot of the decisions that they make are going to trickle down into how things are run in our country and how things affect our country. And I feel like it's only now our citizens have kind of focused on that a little bit more, especially with what recently happened with UK having to get a visa to go to the UK. That'll definitely bring up some discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like how that sort of like kind of does impact your to get back to the book stuff, which is kind of what we're here for, right? Is how that does sort of like impact like your identity of what it means to be Trinidad, right? To be Trini, you know what I mean? And how that kind of changes from like people from the outside and people telling you who you are, people telling you what you can do, what you can't do, and you know all that stuff. It's like, and how that kind of is impacted by your culture and by what you read and what you don't read and stuff like that. I think.
Yeah, I definitely think it would have an effect on it. But for right now, at least where I am right now in life and in terms of my mentality, especially my self esteem is concerned, um, I'm not too I'm not too concerned about being like Trini enough or not Trini enough.
Mm.
Like to me, I'm Trini. I'm born and raised here. I even if someone else doesn't agree or they feel like I'm not quite there, as Trini as they expected. This is what I know. This is my life. So yeah, I take people's words with a grain of salt.
But that's like the other part, right? Like the more you have like all of these like unprovoked sort of like nationalism coming up, it kind of sort of like forces you to also like think about your identity and like your like personal like national whatever you want to call it identity, right? It's like it's like, as long as we're all like one big family, you don't have to think about being Trinidad, right?
Mhm.
But as soon as like everyone else is going like, oh, we hate people from outside, you go like
Yeah,
Trinidad pride. You know what I mean?
yeah, I completely understand what you mean. Yeah, sometimes you don't realize how much your identity affects you until um, that identity is under fire, and you're like,
Mm.
"Oh, should I identify with this? Because people seem not to be happy, but at the same time, should I deny it? Because it's literally a part of myself."
I didn't care, but now that you say, I want to punch you in the face.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I guess we'll see how it goes as things unfold in terms of politics and how it goes. But I think for
That's
the
like
most part, mhm.
that's like the other question is like how much like how close is your politics actually tied to US politics? Like how much can you pay attention to that and how much can you go like, yeah, fuck it. We're still part of the Commonwealth. Whatever that means.
Yeah, whatever that means for real. There are some ways in which the impact doesn't seem that great, but then there are other times where um, certain decisions that are made, there is the question of how it will affect us based on how we're viewed by the outside world. Um, so, for example, when Trump's first started speaking about the wall, that was something we were very concerned about because Mexico is right there. They're getting a wall. Are we going to get a metaphorical wall as yet? Also, like, is that something we're going to have to deal with in the future? Right now, it's just getting a visa, but maybe in the future, you have to get more than just a visa. You have to get, I don't know, medical or something. You have to, like, other steps that we're going to have to suddenly do based on how things are going politically, and then where does that leave us in terms of migration, or where does that leave our citizens who live there? Because we have a lot of trainees in the states, especially New York, Brooklyn. um, how is that
Mm.
going to affect them if so many people are being uh, deported basically out of the US? How is that going to affect not just our politics, but our land itself, our resources, if so many people are going to be coming back home
Yeah.
to live? How is that going to affect our infrastructure? How is it going to affect our economy? Um, yeah, so those are concerns. They definitely are. Um, but for the most part, I'm living happy-go-lucky land.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool, but like, yeah. God. I just scrolled through like the older chat when like people were claiming that I was always singing in chat, which I have never done. I've done like I've sung for like no wait I've sung for the oh god for the fucking Christmas thing I did last year, and then I did sing for the video that like probably no one watched when it was talking about the river has roots, which is so fucking good.
Oh yeah, you've mentioned this book before.
It's so good. It's alright, so it's a fairy tale retelling, and
Mhm.
it's also a retelling and subversion of an old English folk ballad,
Mm.
and it's one of my favorite songs from one of my favorite English like old like 70s English folk bands.
Mhm.
And what she does with that song is sort of like twist a lot of stuff and like make it like a way more Make it like an angry feminist, like really cool book instead of
Oh.
like just like the 16th century murder ballad that it was before.
Mhm.
And and that's kind of what makes it so good, that it kind of takes the fairy tale and the folk song and kind of turns it into like something new.
Yeah,
But
that's.
it's also, yeah. Go
And
ahead.
I think the thing with retellings is that you have to be like really good at it because there's some retellings that are they're almost too close to the actual story in that it
Mm,
felt like you just read what you already know.
yeah.
And I don't really like those. But when I see an author take a retelling and put an entirely new spin on it or a concept that I probably would have never thought of, yeah.
Oh,
So
I want you to read Burning Girls and Other Stories by Veronica Shanos.
Burning Girls.
Burning Girls and Other Stories by Veronica Shanos. It's gonna fuck you up. No, it's really good. It's like super fucking good, but it's like angry fairy
Mhm.
tale retellings
Mm. Okay.
with a because Veronica Shanos is Jewish. It's got like a Jewish perspective. It's got
Okay.
like a lot of like Jewish mythology kind of tied into it. It's also got like a lot of like punk rock stuff tied into it. And,
Mm-hmm.
like
Actually,
seriously, you read the story called Rats, and you go out of that, and you don't want to punch the system in the face. I don't know what's going wrong with you, but like that story is like, you take fucking Sleeping Beauty and you turn it into a story about fucking Nancy and Sid Vicious, and you kind of do that
mm-hmm.
in a good way that is all about like mental health and drug abuse and the commodification of victimhood and shit. And it's so fucking good. Hey, go read that story. Like not just you, but like everyone. Go read that fucking story. You know, be very angry.
Sounds very interesting. So I'll definitely have to add it to the never-ending TBR.
Yeah. No, like I'm not gonna put you down on the spot or anything, but like that is sort of like holy shit. That's kind of where you do like retellings the right way, which
Uh-huh.
is something that's gonna make you very angry and has something to say about the world we live in. Because like, I don't need like another retelling of a story that just take something and put some other costume on it. Like, make it actually matter for like where I am right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you could turn like Sleeping Beauty into something about like drug abuse and mental health and shit, then yeah, we're talking, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because that shit's happening right now. It's not about just like changing costumes.
Mm-hmm. No, that one sounds very interesting too. I've seen a couple of recommendations in the comments as well that I will be looking into. Hmm. I do listen to reggae music, to the person who asked that. It's not my go to genre, but it is what I grew up with. So yeah, I do listen to it. If it's playing, I'll listen to it. But I probably wouldn't like search it up on YouTube unless it's Bob Marley. But outside of that, I probably wouldn't search it up. But I do listen to it. If it plays on the radio, I'll be singing. Not very well, but I'll be singing.
No strange orange man here. Ben, oh, by the way, did you see that? Like, propaganda from Winnipeg. got like an actual feature on CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Company, like propaganda being like Winnipeg's like major punk band, and they get like a feature on like the official like state broadcasting system.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
It was really funny. They're trying to explain why they're like totally anti-capitalist and totally anti-system and everything, and they're like, well, you know, we're still here after like 40 years.
Wow. Okay.
It was just like super funny to see. What if like CNN was talking to Bad Religion, basically? Which they should, but anyway, shall we end this slowly, or do you have like other like questions you want me to ask me or say or whatever? Because otherwise, I guess I have to come up with something I can sing, and then we can slowly end this.
No questions. I think we kind of bounced off of each other with our answers and our topics. So we don't have like any specific questions that we haven't really touched on as yet.
Well, I don't know if I can sing anything, right?
Probably.
Well, I've got to the finish stream that I can just like start singing, and then we can slowly end this as soon as I feel like pressing that button. Well, I recently sang that for that like the row has a root thing, but that's like the only thing I can probably remember some of it. I don't know, man. It's Saturday fucking night. I've not exactly paid attention to lyrics.
What time is it for you?
Um, it's 11 p.m.
Oh,
No, it's 11:05, but you know what I mean.
yeah. Okay. Wait.
So it's gonna switch in like 2 hours. It's gonna go back because that's when we switch to like daylight savings.
Uh huh.
But right now you're like 5 hours behind me, so it's like 6 p.m.
Yeah, it's exactly 6 p.m.
All right. Well, I'm gonna start singing, then I'm gonna press that button, and then you have to live with the fact that I can't actually sing because I really can't sing. Trust me. I'm not a singer. Sing me a song. You're a singer. No, I'm not. Do me a right. You're a. Nah, we're not going down that road. I will never, ever compete with Ronnie James Dio. That will never, ever fucking happen.
But I think you've got pretty good melody, though.
What?
You've got good melody. Yeah.
I'll do the first part of the cruel sister thing, and then you'll have to live with that. And I'll press the button, and then I hopefully actually remember to also press the second button because otherwise you'll. Anyway, beyond anything else, thank you everyone for actually hanging out, and
Yes. This is
Lily, thank you so fucking much to actually do that.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
No, it was fucking amazing. I was like, "You cool?" I was scared to ask you because I'm like, I'm YouTube's angry anarchist. And I'm like, will she?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. I'm super fucking happy that you actually did, and everyone subscribe to Lily's channel. It's really cool. It's gonna calm you down. It's gonna be really cool. it's what I do when I need something to not be angry at.
I'm glad it helps. I'm glad.
No, it does. It fucking does. Like, I've been subscribed to you for like a fucking year. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it does work, is what
Okay,
I'm saying.
that's great. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Thank you for having me. This was fun. I enjoyed the chat. Not just with you, but also with the comments. You guys are very
Yeah,
entertaining.
yeah. I guess I'm gonna start singing, and then I'm gonna press that button, and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
You know how bad it is to actually sing with like earplugs in your head. It's bad. It's even worse because I know it's gonna sound bad. There lived a lady by the northeast shore. Lay the bend to the bonny broom. Her mother's were the babes she bore. Fa la 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 la. As one grew bright as is the sun. Say the band to the bonny broom. As coal black brew the other one. Fa la 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 la.
That was good though.
Holy shit, that was bad, man. You have never heard the original, man. I hope. I'm gonna send you that like I mean it's like a 15th century kind of thing, right? So it's there's no original, but like the Pentangle are doing the best fucking thing out of it. It's so good. And it's a the song is like it goes like beyond that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about like how they have like the two daughters, one is like blonde and one is black haired, and then the guy comes along and he pretends to woo the black haired one, and he's really in love with the blonde. And we're not gonna go into like all the context of that, right? And then the black haired one actually pushes the blonde sister into the sea, and she drowns. And then
Whoa.
they no, that it's a murder ballad. It's like a British ballad. It's still folk music, right? It's not folk music unless there's like a murder or a rape or both. That's kind of what you have to live with.
I mean, true. I don't know any folk songs that the context is exactly happy.
No. Folk is not about being happy. Folk is about being, and so the story continues that like she dies or she drowns and she walks she washes ashore, and there's like these like minstrels, and they find her body and they turn her body into a harp. So they take her breastbone and turn it into like a harp, and they turn her hair into like the strings for the harp, and they start playing at her sister's wedding. And then her sister obviously, it's folk songs, right?
Wow.
And her sister goes like, "Oh shit, I fucking, murdered my sister. Now that you're playing that specific harp, you know,
Wow. That's quite a
like it's English folk songs. I don't know what to say. It's all bad." Anyway, thank you so much for actually doing this.
no problem. I had a fun time.
I hope it was good. Like I was scared. I'm like I said, like I'm like YouTube's BookTube's angry white anarchist, and I'm like, there's people out there on BookTube that don't want to actually do anything with me. So I'm like, always scared to actually ask people because you know what I mean. And
Yeah, I
I'm super.
understand.
I'm very happy that you actually said yes because you know.
Well, yeah, I'm like I said, I'm open to sharing conversation with people, even if we're opposites, even if we're not like quite similar to each other. So I'm always open to
No,
conversation.
no, that was cool, and I hope you had fun.
Yeah, I did. I definitely did. This was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That was the main goal. The main goal was for you to have fun and maybe actually, you know, some people that, you know, some of the few people that watch my channel actually go over and maybe watch your channel afterwards and, you know, we all win.
Yeah, yeah, it was a good time. I had a good time.
Thank you so much. Like seriously, I hope you know, it wasn't too bad.
No, it was great. It was great. I really did have a good time, and the conversation was great.
Cool. No, yeah. So some people were just like messaging me like, "Oh, that propaganda interview," and I'm like, "Yeah, dude, it's it's a punk band. It's called Propaganda. You know, it's spelled exactly the way you know you would imagine the band is spelled.
Yeah,
No, they're good. They're like really good if you're like into Canadian punk bands.
I'll have to look into that. I definitely will.
No, it's like very like really cool like speed angry punk, and the live album they played in Winnipeg was like was called like Live on Occupied Territory.
Hmm.
So they're like, you know, very, you know, politically aware of like who they are and where they are and all of that stuff. But yeah, you know, it's just, it's angry leftist shit, which is kind of, you know, where I am, as you may have noticed. I would no, like before we end this, like seriously, I was so scared because like I asked you and I'm like, you know, it's like I have this specific like kind of reputation, right? Like I'm you know, I'm angry, I'm leftist and all of this stuff, and there's people on YouTube and on BookTube that don't want to talk to me, and there's like all this stuff, and then like my friend also made this like really fun like Marxist Harry Potter thumbnail. And I'm like, is he gonna like this? It's gonna no, it's just gonna like actually fucking turn you off. You know what I mean?
When I saw the thumbnail at first, I was curious. I was like, "What are we gonna talk about? Why is Harry Potter on the front? What conversation are we gonna have?" But what's that? I came into it with an open mind. So
Like, it's not about just seizing the means of magical production. Man, it was just like I was trying to like you know come up with something that kind of works, and like I know that you've been reading like Harry Potter recently. I'm like something that kind of works for like a thumbnail, right?
hmm.
And the Harry Potter kind of thing was like something I can like focus on. I was like, the Trevor Noah one doesn't work for like a thumbnail kind of thing.
Yeah, I see your
so
point
like
with that one.
so like Marxist Harry Potter does kind of sound like a cool thing, right?
It does. It is quite interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, Cicely, thank you so much.
No problem.
And yeah, I'm gonna get some sleep. I'm gonna have to fucking. Oh gods. I said yes to being on like a stream tomorrow.
Mm. Oh, yeah. Then you.
On the oh, gods on the fucking U.S. Pacific Theater kind of thing, and I kind of like those people as people, but I'm kind of struggling with their like politics and stuff, and it's kind of hard for me to kind of figure that shit out because I'm like, I have a video that's gonna come up very soon. It's gonna be very bad. It's gonna make a lot of people very angry. Um, my problem is, I'm I try to, like on the one hand, right? I'm unfortunately like I'm incredibly well educated. I can't sort of like leave that behind, right? Like I got a I had a degree in computer science. I studied history and philosophy at university. I'm like, and I try to not do that because, you know, it's because like, who I am and like who's my parents and all that shit. Like I got that basically for free. It's not like because I'm smart or anything. It's because, you know, people paid for that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to that fucking conversation and they're gonna talk about like the Pacific Theater and they're talking about like those all that American stuff and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be there every freaking single time going like, no, that's actually not true because there's this thing and this thing and this thing. It's so bad because I don't want to fucking be that guy all the time. 'Cause, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I don't want to be the fucking annoying, you know, I don't want to be the fucking annoying intellectual guy. It's not my job. I want to be the fucking punk rock guy up front. Well, I guess I still have to actually deal with that whole shit tomorrow. Anyway, seriously, thank you so much.
No problem.
Anything you ever want to do something like about like a specific book or whatever, like let me know. Let's do that.
Okay, no problem. I
No,
will.
no, I like seriously. I really like. I really love your stuff. Yeah, you're cool. No,
Okay.
seriously, you're cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Feels cool to be called cool.
Right, you're still called cool by me, but you know what? I want to hang out with you. I want to drink beer with you. I want to, burn shit with you. Strike the last one. Maybe.
Oh, it started raining here, so the audio might get choppy at the ending.
No, we're good. All right.
Okay,
No, seriously, see you around, and thank you so fucking much.
no problem. Enjoy the rest of your night. See you guys. I hope you guys have a good night or good morning. I don't know what time you're watching this, but enjoy the
Yeah,
rest of
it's about midnight. I'm gonna
your
fucking die.
night.
I have to. I have to fucking read an entire fucking World War II memoir tomorrow. That's gonna be brutal.
That sounds brutal.
Yeah.
That
I
sounds
know.
very intense.
I know. It's bad. Anyway, I'll message you about like stuff, but like seriously, let's keep doing cool shit together.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
You know,
Yeah,
because you're cool. That's the main thing.
thank you. You're pretty cool too.
All right. See you around.
Okay, bye bye.